Good morning, DJ and PK. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday. It's official. Tom Holmoe announced his retirement. That was sent out on Tuesday. He had the press conference on Wednesday. We'll get to that. A little bit of a question and answer session. I want to let you hear from one of the first hires that he made, Coach Dave Rose, a big hire and a successful hire. Here's Coach Dave Rose. Coach, good morning.
Good morning. What's up, PK?
Well, we got a little change in administration at BYU, and going back to the old days when you and I were younger, that Tom Holmoe hired Bronco, and then right after that hired you. It's literally months apart. I believe you guys started at the same time as the two head coaches in the most prominent, high-profile sports. How was it working for Tom Holmoe?
You know, Tom was, I think, as good a guy to work for as you could have had, because he kind of just let you go and do your thing. I mean, there were obviously times when, he'd kind of corral you and bring you back in a little bit, but he was he let you run your program, and he was very, very supportive, and the things that you needed. You know, during our run there were so many things that, besides basketball, outside of the court itself, trying to build just a better infrastructure of that program. We redid our locker room a couple times. Obviously, we got the practice facility online, and then we actually had it built. I mean, there were so many things that went into Tom's legacy there that didn't really have anything to do with the game itself. It just had to do with trying to get us up to speed and actually prepare the school to get into where they are now, into the Big 12.
Sure. Him being a former BYU player, him being former NFL player, him being a former assistant coach, him being a former head coach in the high-profile sport of football, how much do you think that helped him be able to negotiate his job and be an advocate for the coaches?
Well, I think it was huge, because it brought immediate credibility to his position. And I remember when they asked him to serve on the NCAA basketball committee. That was a really big deal, and there were so many different coaches that I saw, like on the summer recruiting trail and whatever, that were excited for. Even though he's a football guy, they were just excited for a guy with so much experience in athletics as a player and as a coach, that they were on that committee, and just thought that they would bring a really stabilizing message from what he was looking for, and trying to make those decisions. And I think he was only supposed to be on that committee for a year or two. When he first got on it, he was just filling in for a guy, and then he stayed on there for quite a few years.
Former BYU basketball coach Dave Rose joining us. From your perspective, and you're in athletics basically your whole adult life, I saw that, the blue thing where you told your wife, forget that, man, I'm not working in an office. I'm out of here. I'm going to be a coach. And knowing what I know of you, that obviously is no surprise. You would have gone nuts in an office. You needed to be on the front lines of coaching and challenging yourself. And she knew it, and everybody around you knew it. So you got a lot of experience yourself. As they go forward, what type of qualities do you think actually makes a good athletic director that this person needs to have in order to be successful at this job?
Well, the fact that he actually played and was really, really successful and actually coached, and he in his own words, he would tell you that his run as a coach was probably a little disappointing, but the experience that he got from all those three different levels, as a player, and then as a professional player, and then as a college coach. I mean, he just had so much experience, which brought so much respect from all the coaches that were underneath him, or that were playing for him, or that were trying to perform for him. And so I think the fact that his experience before he became the athletic, I mean, he was a zoology major or some kind of science major, and then he went back and got some type of sports management degree as a master's. And so I think he was prepared in all different areas as far as his ability to perform at a really high level in that position.
How much does an AD really need to understand the pressure that you guys go through during the season, especially if you lose a ball game or two? Because it just seems like, been around you, been around Steve Cleveland, I've been around so many coaches over the years, I'm old now myself, that, I mean, you can literally see it on their faces when things aren't going right. And I would think your supervisors and those you're dealing with really need to have a great understanding of that.
Yeah, and Tom actually did have that. I watched him, especially during football games, to be able to just see, the agony that he was going through, trying to get that win and get that clock to tick to 0-0-0, and have him be able to move on to the next week, and I don't know if you really understand that, and especially you don't really understand what a coach is going through unless you've been there. And I think that's why so many really, really good, successful athletic directors have been coaches, because that's what you're dealing with. And you're not just dealing with, a football and a basketball coach, but there's another 30 or 40 coaches,
right,
on your staff that you're over, and you're trying to help all of them, reach the highest level. And when I saw, I think I saw something yesterday when Tom made his announcement that he's won some 140, 136. That's an amazing amount of conference championships that his coaches have won while he's been an athletic director. I just think the success that he's had came from his experience. And I mean, I remember there were not a lot of times when I just called Tom on the phone and said, hey, we need to meet, but there were quite a few, and he was prepared for every conversation, and he'd been through it at some level himself. And that was kind of the first thing that I would get from Tom, was some of the backstories of things that he went through, and it would help me, just feel kind of a calm or a peace, knowing that, all right, he's dealt with this. Let's figure out what we need to do and move forward. And I think that was a big part of his success as an athletic director there at BYU.
So basically, he's got to be a great listener and almost like a big brother type of person too.
Yeah, and I think, just think about over the course of 20 years in all those sports, and what Tom was really, really good at is he was really engaged in the student athlete themselves. I mean, he personally had a real interest in all of those kids being able to reach their potential and move on and graduate, and then have a really good start in life as far as learning how to compete at the highest level and then move on to what's next for them. I think that Tom could really see that, and I think he really enjoyed it. He really liked being there, watching the student athlete progress and perform and be successful.
Former BYU basketball coach Dave Rose joining us now. The state of sports at the collegiate level will deal with basketball, since that was where your expertise was. that you look at it and we see these just enormous amounts of money that these players, especially in basketball, because you get one or two of them and they can make a significant difference. In football, you got to have an entire team, and we know in basketball you get a couple of studs at the top and away you can go. And we see, ESPN reporting that this Debanza kid coming up from down in Hurricane, where he's playing with that prep team, $8.5 million. I got to imagine for you, because you were in it at the front lines and you saw the seedy nature of the game, that I would think that you're really not surprised it's gone in this direction, because it sort of been trending that way under the table, so to speak, for many, many years.
Yeah. Well, it's what you see is a lot more parity, and because you don't just have a few teams that are demand all the attention from the players. I mean, players can go just about anywhere now and make money, and that's something that I think is really good for the players. We knew it as coaches that it was on the table for years, and we kind of ignored it, and then it kind of jumped up on on the programs now, where we probably would have been much better served to get ahead of it and to try to control it, because it's hard to put the genie back in the bottle now once it's gone. And I think it's really good for the players. I think that the players who've played, in the past, you talk to a lot of kids that played for us, that obviously didn't make money. They wish that maybe they were born a little bit later and that their life was a little bit different. I mean, you think that some of these kids are making more money in a year than any of our players have made in a year, for their entire career. And so I applaud the fact that these programs are trying to find a way to make this work for them. But it's sure way different than it was when we were in there, and it was just a few years ago too. I mean, it's not like it's been that long ago. But I do believe that you're going to see more and more coaches and ADs probably step aside and retire and turn it over to a younger group. And in a few years, it's going to seem very normal. It's just everybody's just going to go, oh, this is the way it is. This is awesome. Let's, my wife, she wants to find a way to enjoy the sport without thinking about the money. And my suggestion to her is, hey, watch the games, love the games. As soon as the last game's played, turn everything off, and then wait till November 10th and turn it all on. Because if you know all the backstories, it won't be as fun for you. But if you're just watching the games, it'll be just fine, because it'll be like it always was.
Well, Dave, I appreciate catching up with you, and thanks for your time.
Yeah, absolutely, Pat. Good luck. All
right, we thank Coach Rose for joining us. Got to tell you about what we do here at 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Tomorrow is Friday. You can join Ben at the RV show this Friday from 10 a.m. to noon at the Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy. This is your opportunity to shop, compare, and buy the RV of your dreams. See you for the biggest event of the year for RV enthusiasts. That starts on Thursday, and Ben will be out there on Friday, so it starts today. Check it out. If you want, you'll have a good time. Coming up next, we're going to listen to a question and answer session with the media with Tom Holmoe. Stay with us, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Good morning, DJ and PK. Thanks for listening to us on this Thursday. Tom Holmoe took some questions from the media about his retirement, and we're going to play that right now.
John Kuhn, Associated Press. Tom, just looking at the timing of your retirement, when did you decide that this was the right time for you to retire? How did that all come about?
I made the decision in July of this year. The last couple years, I've had to seriously contemplate And my wife and I made the decision for a couple years that let's go one more. Let's go one more. Let's go another. And sometime this summer, I'm not sure about the exact date, I just had a very strong impression that it was time. I'd talked to some people through long years where they would say, you'll know when the time is right. And it was in July. I think my bosses wanted me to give them a little bit more time, like a year, and I just didn't feel that I could do that. Sorry, President. And so at that time, my wife and I talked about it. I went to her and we talked it out, had a little debate, threw a few things at each other, and decided finally after a week that we were on the same page. And at that point in time, I told my children, and they said, no. And I said, yeah. And I said, look, whether we go 0-12 or 12-0 in football, this is my last season. But we're not going to go 0-12. I knew it. If we would have had if I would have said something early on, it would have been a big distraction for our football team and our other teams. And through the spring and winter conditioning, my talks with Kalani, I knew that we were going to have a good football team. I'll be honest and say I didn't think we would reach the heights that Kalani and his team reached, but I believe that we were a bowl team. I saw them work. I saw it coming together. And at that point in time, I was just praying that it would come together, and it did. So super grateful for my sanity that it was just a sweet and special year. And so about 2 weeks maybe after the season, I went to President and to Keith and said, this is the time. And I said, hey, I'll work through the end of this contract, which is August, and at that point in time, I'll be done. But I'll do whatever you need me to do up until that time. So my president can answer the questions more about that, but I just believe that this is a really good time to make a smooth and effective and powerful transition. I sincerely believe that the pieces are in place for us to continue to really thrive. The Big 12 has been a special blessing for all of our teams. We all believe in the Big 12, that the leadership of the Big 12. Man, being in Morgantown last night for a game was special. And this is the right time. So I hope that answers the question.
Congratulations, Tom.
Thank you, Patrick.
Patrick Kinahan, KSL Sports. As you go forward, obviously this university and this athletic department means the world to you, and you want to see it succeed. If you could impart wisdom on whoever your successor is, what do you think it would be?
I don't think there's any question to that answer, and that is when I was hired by President Samuelson in 2005, he sat me down in his office and said, you have got to be aligned with BYU, the school. They often talk about the academic mission or the school's mission and how it's aligned with the athletic department at every school. And I think there's varying degrees of alignment with the school. I don't think people realize that. I think they see athletic departments and football programs as being the number one star on campus, but the foundation is the school, and it will always be that way. There's things that are going on in athletics right now in college that will bring you away from that. But he said, keep aligned with me, meaning the president, and the direction that I give you, and I will stay aligned with our board of trustees in the church, which we have the closest bond as any school in the country. It's a strength that I could never overstate. And I've just felt that for 20 years, that bond and the support and the strength that I feel when things get tough and things get rough, we're aligned. So they've given me leeway because I'm okay to fail. Like I said in my remarks, we've struggled and stumbled and done some crazy things, and they have grace, and we're good. And that gives me confidence to give that to our coaches, and our coaches feel the same way. And so there's stability, there's structure, and there's consistency, and that rules the day here.
Tom, Jake Hatch, KSL Sports. You mentioned the fact you went year by year over the last little bit in terms of determining what your future was going to be. How much of getting BYU on a solid footing in a new conference was a deciding factor in all of this?
Jake, it's an interesting question because I remember, and Lori will laugh or cry, I don't know which. When in about my 5th or 6th year, I came home one day and said, I can't do this job. This is just way too hard, and I'm not sure I'm really built for this job. And as we go forward, it was like year after year. I've been here for 23 years on a 1 year-to-year contract. I never had a multi-year contract. I never asked for a multi-year contract. They never gave me a multi-year contract. I'm sorry, President. And I didn't want it that way. I literally wanted it to be where I had to work for my food. And if I did a great job in a given year, Keith or Matt Richardson or Kevin Worthen or Fred Skousen, my bosses through those years, would slide the contract across the table when it was contract time, and I would sign the contract without looking at what the terms were. And just knowing that I was just going to have troubles and struggles, it was fine. So I just took them one at a time. There were other issues before the Big 12. Like, I didn't know if I would make it to that. But it's almost like Lori and I think some of those are private. I had some definite goals that I wanted to achieve before I was done. And I'll share one, and just to show you, like when President Samuelson was a president, one of my goals that I told Lori was that I just hope I can finish, that he can finish his tenure and that he doesn't have to fire me and hire another AD. I'm serious. I think that the fact that he had confidence in me and gave me that job, I just had to finish for him. And then when Kevin took over, I was like, whoa, I made it through one president. That's pretty good. And so I'm working on number 3 now.
Darnell Dixon, the Daily Herald. A lot of coaches and administrators are getting out of the college game because of the changes, the NIL and transfer portal and all of that. How do you feel like you were able to navigate that, considering what BYU represents?
It's a great question. I think that the answer is many-faceted, but I look up and see some of my coaches in the stands right now, and we just did it together. There were difficult times. I'll give you one example, and there would be many if I had time, but during COVID, Kalani and I would get together and say, what are we going to do? Really, we would look at each other like, I'm not prepared for this. He's not prepared for this. And then, we'd cobble together a schedule and say, Kalani, we have a chance to do a home-and-home with Alabama. You want to do it? And he'd look at me, and I knew in his heart of hearts he's thinking, no, I'm not so sure about that. And he'd go, let's do it. And so, together, the coaches and me and my administration, we just figured out a way to get it together and make it work. And so that's kind of how it worked. there were times, I want to speak on COVID a little bit. It was a really fun and exciting time when I say fun. And I say that because I look in the stands right now and I see Ryan Smith, who's a friend of ours. And during COVID, and I called him up and said, hey, how's this work? What are you doing? And he runs a business, I run a business. And we had talks, he shared some really private things about his experiences growing his business. And we shared that. And it kind of hit. It wasn't exactly apples and apples, but like what he shared with me, I was able to take and share with Kalani and with some of the other coaches. And then I could hear the coaches taking that emotion and energy and strategy and putting it with their players. And then, Andy Reid would call me and say, hey, let me just tell you, here's how it's working with us. Danny Ainge would call me, here's how it's working with us. We just have this team of talent in our alums that is seemingly endless. And they just don't call and say, good luck. They're in it all the way. And so for us to be able to get through difficulties, there are going to be difficulties every day, almost every week, and we like taking them on. We do. It's hard when it happens, but we were always reminded, when you get through it, it's going to be sweet.
Jay Drew, Deseret News. Congratulations, Tom.
Thank you, Jay.
President mentioned that you would stay involved. So this is a two-part question. How involved will you be, or will you just ride off into the sunset? And second, what's on your bucket list? What's next for you?
Okay. I told President right off the bat that I did sign up for another year, which was through August. So if he needed me till that day, I'm in. But I said, it's probably better for everybody to get someone in here sooner than later. And that's a good thing. So if it takes, a week or a month or whatever the time is, when that new AD comes in to ask for my keys to my office, I'll give them to him and then maybe be selling nachos at the Smith Fieldhouse for the rest of the time.
And just, if I can, Jay, the other thing I would say is that when Tom came to my office and indicated that he was willing to stay until August, until the end of his contract, I did talk to our contracting staff and ask whether or not we could change the year on that contract. And they assured me that it was already signed and executed, so I couldn't do that. It would be in breach. But I'll say that Tom's willingness to be a part of kind of our process going forward is incredible. It shows his commitment to the institution. And candidly, until then, it's going to be business as usual. We are in the throes of a very active basketball season, both men's and women's. We have our men's volleyball team in action. We have our track and field teams in action. So we have an athletic department that needs to be run, and I'm so grateful for Tom's willingness to dig in and to treat this as another chapter of his incredible legacy that he's continuing to build at BYU.
Hey, my dad wouldn't think that I was working last night at the game, but I was working hard. And, just like I have the greatest job in the world. I really believe I have the best job in the world. And, to be able to see Kevin come running off I always go down the tunnel to the locker room, and to see Kevin running towards the locker room and just to embrace a coach that just fought like crazy to win a game. That's my bliss, is being in the games, seeing the players coming through and just looking at all their eyes. And they just had a really difficult, tough loss at Cincinnati and then battled back. How do you beat that? That's hard to beat. And that's the part that, I think I'll miss. But I'll be in the stands with some of our donors and sponsors and friends and Cougar Nation, and I'll have plenty of opinions that I can state in the stands that I can't really state right now as the AD.
Mitch Harper, KSL Sports. President Reese, you noted something. Just wanted to follow up. You mentioned that there's a formal search going on and that you want someone who's passionate about BYU. Is that focusing in on internal candidates, or are you conducting a national search to find Tom's replacement?
It's a great question, and we're definitely going to conduct a national search. We're going to cast a broad net with the intent of getting the person who is passionate, who bleeds blue. I mean, and committed to the mission. Tom talked about this alignment piece. Understanding that we're sponsored by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and our connection to our board of trustees, and having that alignment from top to bottom is an incredible asset. I would call it our strategic advantage. I think it's part of what led to some of the magic we saw with our cross-country teams this year. I think it's what led to this magical football season that we've had. It's the magic of this athletic program, and I think that alignment matters critically. And so that means that we've got to be rigorous in our approach for searching for a replacement. And really, we talk about a replacement. I don't think you ever replace a man like Tom Holmoe. I think there's a successor in this role, but Tom Holmoe's an irreplaceable athletic director. 20 years as an athletic director. I go around and look at Big 12 schools, and that's a rare individual. And you then look at the path that we've trod to get to where we are as an athletic department through independence to entry into the Big 12. It's a remarkable tribute to an incredible career.
Yeah, I'd like to kind of add on to that as far as what President said about the search. One of the things that is super encouraging for me is the day that I came to President and we talked this out. You know, he did ask me if I wanted to stay, but he knew that I had made my decision. But I think it's important to note that, like, right soon after I knew his feelings and we're super close friends, I knew that he had already turned the page and he was ready to go. And it made me feel so good that he can't wallow in what was. We're looking ahead right now. This is a really good time to make a transition. Transitions are part of sport. Change is part of sport, and it's oftentimes very good. It can be tough, but it's good. And I love the fact, and I'll report this to all of our coaches and our staff, is that President's ready to go. We're going to turn the page. The baton will be handed to a new AD, and we'll hit the ground running. That's what I wanted. That's what President wanted, and I think that's what all Cougar Nation wants.
This will be our final question.
Kevin Reynolds with the Salt Lake Tribune. Tom, I know you've prepared a lot for revenue sharing and things like that, but how much of that is already in place, and what are the biggest challenges you see in whoever is your successor?
Kevin, I think there are a lot of new things on the horizon. Revenue share, NIL, transfer portal, the House settlement, that will be an ongoing challenge, has been, is, and will be for a few years. I think that the work that we've done in the last 2 years is solid. I was with an AD friend of mine last night, and one of the things that we were talking about was no one's going to really know how good we're doing at this right now until a year or two or three from now, when you can see how it paid off. There's been people that thought they were doing it well, and it hasn't turned out too well. But I have a great team right now. And I have, in the last year, and maybe even two, subconsciously knowing that this was going to come to an end soon, I've been turning over a lot of strength and power to my team. And I have a right-hand man, a wingman, B. Santiago, and I've been giving him a lot of strength. And in this NIL and House and these things, we are working every single day to plan for the future. So it's not like I have to just start, we're going to start from scratch. We're down the road quite a bit. They will make adjustments when I'm not here, because I'll be gone, and that's a good thing to be able to have people look at things in a different way. I'm totally confident that the shifts and the moves and how it changes will happen naturally and in a normal way. And we got this.
All right, that was Tom Holmoe, obviously listening and answering questions from the media. Got to tell you about the Hercules Hero of the Week. Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at KSLSports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, and it's sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. The Jazz get a big win. How about that? Beat the Lakers. We'll get you the best of the postgame coming up next right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Good morning. The Jazz get a big win, and they hammer them. The Lakers, no less, 131-119. All sorts of great offense by the Jazz. They had it going on, and the Lakers didn't seem really interested in playing. Let's have Jake Scott take you with the best of the Jazz postgame right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's your Jazz recap here on DJ and PK 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott with you. Jazz win. They beat the Lakers. Little revenge. 131-119 last night at Delta Center. Lowry Markkanen had 32 points to lead the way. Jordan Clarkson added 21, 7 assists, and 9 rebounds. Keontae George had 20 points and 10 assists coming in off the bench in 33 minutes. And the Jazz get a little revenge from Monday night's loss in L.A. Let's get to the postgame sound and hear from Jazz head coach Will Hardy.
The couple of things that were covered in shoot-around and in the film on the defensive side of the ball, I thought improved drastically tonight. I thought our overall effort, tenacity, competitiveness, just kind of the fly-around factor was way different tonight than it was in the last game. For us to have 10 steals helped us get out in transition. I thought we dictated the tempo of tonight's game. They had 36 points in the paint. I think going into the fourth quarter it was 22. So overall, the team effort to protect the paint and to scramble around was way better than the other night. And it always makes you feel good when the team shows the ability to learn, bounce back. There's going to be nights that don't go our way, but the way they approach tonight's game is the piece that I'm most proud of. 30 assists. We had our two young guards with 9 and 10 assists, respectively. Between the two of them, 19 assists, 6 turnovers. Like the way they took care of the ball and got it moving for us was great. Another night with 6 guys in double figures. It's a great team win.
There have been times this season, there have been a lot of downs this season, but you guys have responded relatively well when that happened. And you stayed kind of resilient through a lot of the challenges. What do you think that is, and what do you attribute in terms of the character of the team that's allowed that to happen?
Ultimately, the character of any group is going to be reflective of kind of the summation of the character of all the individuals. Like the players deserve all the credit. They're all tough. They're all smart. They're all really good human beings. They're good teammates. They're respectful people. They have humility. They take coaching. They take ownership of the things that they need to do better. We don't have a group that points fingers. We don't have a group that complains under their breath. I think we've developed a really healthy communication between the group. It's blunt. It's to the point. I think the team as a whole has lost the sensitivity to just like, hey, this is what we see, and that could be coach to player, it can be player to player. Like I think the way that our team has communicated with each other and the way that has grown throughout the season has been a massive piece of that. It's allowed us to move through the tough moments because we just face it head on as a group and keep moving. But they deserve all the credit because ultimately the character of the group is a summation of all of their characters individually.
You guys did a lot of zone possessions tonight. Why did you go that way, and what did you see?
Yeah, it's something that we've used a good amount over the last couple of years. This season, for a majority of the year, we've kept it on the shelf. We've been trying to hammer home some man-to-man defensive fundamentals. We've been trying to also kind of evaluate and push our young players on those fundamentals and see where we can, the areas we see growth, the areas we need growth. But, as a staff, we felt like this time of year is a good time to bring the zone back into the fold some. It keeps everybody's brains sharp. It kind of kickstarts your brain again because it's something totally different. There was kind of a feeling of monotony where you're just kind of repeating the same things over and over again about the man-to-man, and the zone really ultimately comes down to communication and problem solving and scrambling. There are some rules, but there's also situations where it requires the players to really communicate and solve those problems on the fly. It'll be something that we will continue to use throughout the season. How much sort of remains to be seen, but tonight I thought the biggest thing it did was it forced them to shoot a lot of above the break threes and kept them off the rim. I thought for the most part, even when they had their moments where they hit some above the break threes, the guys were pretty disciplined about what we were trying to execute, knowing we can't take away everything. And we turn in a night where they have 36 points in the paint.
Walker had 6 blocks, but obviously I thought we could have 10. Just what did you make the case for that?
Yeah, I think Walker is the craziest part about Walker defensively is he can still get so much better. I've talked with Walker about the difference between being a great defensive player and being a great shot blocker. And I think that all signs are he is really trending to being a high-level defensive player all around. We've obviously mixed his coverages up a bunch this year. He's been doing some more switching. The zone requires him to communicate. But his activity around the basket, his ability to make plays at the basket that inspire his teammates, that get our crowd going, like those are big plays. A lot of times relying on Walker at the rim means there's probably been a mess that's been made, and he's there to clean up those messes. So he does a really good job. He, I'm on him constantly because I think that he can be such a high-level defensive player kind of in the round. And I think that he's showing the signs to go that way. 6 blocks is obviously a big number, but I'm always interested when I go back and watch the film at not only the blocks, but the shots that he alters, the shots that they don't take. Guys drive and don't even look at the rim because they see Walker coming. So there's a lot of impact that he has on our defense, and tonight was a good example of that.
It seems like Keontae is really found a rhythm as the 6th man for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
What have you seen from him in terms of maturity and accepting that role? Because I know it'd be hard. It's hard on any player to lose a starting job and have to come up with it.
Yeah, it's all about how we frame it. I think there's a big deal made about starting, and there's a little bit of that that's true, but I've said a lot, and I'll continue to say that doesn't mean that you'll necessarily get more minutes. It doesn't mean that you'll be in at the end. I think that Keontae has understood that this is not meant to be a punishment. It's meant to get the best out of him and put him in a position where he can be successful. He's done a good job of kind of refocusing on a lot of the things that aren't scoring. He's such a talented offensive player, but I think he's really diving into all the things that equate to winning. I don't think that his minutes have suffered really at all coming off the bench, and I think it took him a couple of games to realize that. When you're told you're not going to start, immediately your brain goes to what does this mean? And no matter how much explanation there is, until you go through it and feel it and know, like, hey, this isn't going to have a massive negative impact on you, it's hard to know that. So he's handled it great. he's handled it as I expected he would. Keontae's a great kid. He's a great teammate. He's about the group, and he knows that, he has to get better, and he wants to. So I've been really proud of his demeanor, and we've got to keep that going.
There is Coach Hardy. Let's move on to the players and hear from Keontae George.
Just felt, on the game, we really just follow, honestly. So obviously JC had it going. Zay is continuing to push the pace and make everybody play fast with him. So, and we was also just getting stops too. When you get stops, it helps a lot.
You guys are playing a lot of zone too, and more than you have this year. Do you think that does something for you guys defensively to kind of be able to switch it up and kind of get you in the right frame of mind mentally?
For sure. I mean, obviously everybody knows we're young, so we can kind of fly around a little bit, and it kind of throws the other team off a little bit. Like you said, we didn't really run zone that much this season, but we kind of always had it in our back pocket, and Will wants to go to it at times, and it works. So we just got to continue to fly around and be okay with the shots that we're willing to give up, and that's what happened tonight.
In this league, how important is it to have a team like you just played two nights ago, watch the film, and then be able to fix just all the little things that you wanted to, like you did tonight?
I mean, this is big time. Obviously, this isn't the postseason or whatever, but I mean, when you look at that and where we want to get to, I mean, you play a team, you might get, they might get on you big time, and now they got to come here and we got to kind of wash it and get ready to play. So that's what it was. Had a sharp shoot around, and like you said, we cleaned up the things that we needed to clean up when we went over there and played them at their place. And you seen it tonight. We was playing fast, getting stops, knowing that what we wanted to get to each and every possession down the floor. And obviously it helps when guys aren't heaters. JC, Lowry, John. I mean everybody. Walker. So it obviously helps when the ball's going in the hoop. But the attention to detail was great today.
It seems like you've found kind of a comfort level with the six-man role, 20-10 tonight, and you've been pretty consistent with those type of numbers since coming off the bench. I mean, what's kind of been the secret for you on just emerging as a six-man?
I mean, just watching the game, trying to see how people are guarding our guards in pick and roll, seeing the backside, or just seeing how the pace of the game is going, seeing the flow of the game, see how the game is being called. And I mean, Will says it all the time, you got to meet the level of the game. And I just want to go in and obviously keep the energy going, whether the energy's high or if the energy's low. I just want to come in and pick the energy up. So I want to give to the group. I don't want to take. So no matter what it is, continue to stay professional and continue to do what's best for the team. At the end of the day, this isn't an individual sport. So I got to go out and compete and, like I said, do what's best for the Utah Jazz.
Sure, something cool, like you had a good game, Isaiah had a good game, Kyle had a good game, Lowry had a good game. Kind of the guys you're building around played really well tonight. Was that fun? And is there something about, like, this is a core that's building together that you feel you can kind of build on tonight?
For sure. I mean, just to kind of talk about the guys, you mentioned, I mean, it is good when Zay can get it going, I can get it going, Lowry can get it going. I mean, Walk had it going. Obviously, we had a lot of people going, but, to answer your question, it is good to always kind of be in the game and be able to go watch back the game and see, kind of how this thing could look. Obviously we going out and competing with the guys that we have, and, we don't know what the future holds, but at the end of the day, like you said, for the young guys to come out and, have a complete game, we just got to continue to build off it. So, not a lot of younger guys get an opportunity to go out and play how we did and, play down the stretch and, kind of blow the game away. You see, I mean, I don't know how much time is left, but all the starters was out. So for the young guys to be able to kind of make them on the other side kind of feel that the game is over and kind of give in, it's always awesome to see that. So we just got to continue to build off it and, stay right here. We stay level-headed, continue to work, continue to come together as a group. Good special things could happen for sure.
Thanks, man.
That is Keontae George. Big night for Key. 20 points, 10 assists, and 7 boards in the win. Let's now hear from Walker Kessler.
Walker, we talked after Monday, you were proud of how you bounced back in the second half of the first half. Are you even more proud of what you did in tonight's game?
No question. But not just me. Everyone came out and ready to play. Lowry had an incredible game. Keontae had an incredible game. John had a good game. We had a lot of guys. We had 6 guys in double figures. That's crazy. And great, moving the ball, playing good defense, playing physical. It was a lot of fun.
What was the biggest difference, just points in the paint wise? Is it your performance, is it team performance, and is it scheme? Is it what kind of happened?
Team performance for sure. Last game was kind of our first time playing 3 that zone in a while. And so we, went over it this morning and kind of studied it more, and we did a lot better in that zone today, and so that helped a lot. Just being more physical, being a lot more physical on the glass, being more physical on steers, on reds, on ISO defense, covering up for the next man. So it was a good win.
You guys had a 24-4 run in the third quarter that basically put the game away. What was working well for you guys?
At that point, everything. We were getting out, running transition, attacking the rim, shooting well, playing good defense, getting stops. I think our team, when we're at our strongest, is when we're getting stops and just getting out in transition. We got a lot of guys, a lot of young guys that can run really well. So continuing to work on that will be good for us. Yeah, everyone feeds off each other. Because whenever another guy gets a steal or anything like that, like I said before, we're running out in transition. We're getting easy looks. We're getting good looks. We're tiring out the other team. Especially, an advantage that Utah has is obviously the altitude. Not a lot of teams are used to that. So, we definitely take advantage of that.
Will said that he's been talking to you about the difference between being a great defensive player versus just being a great shot blocker. What are those kind of conversations like?
Yeah, Will is big on just because a guy doesn't, just because you don't necessarily get a block shot doesn't mean that you're not, in the right spot deterring shots. And he's big on presenting, a presence and preventing that guy from even getting a shot on the rim because he dribbles it out or whatever. And then in my ISO defense, continuing to challenge myself to guard guys while contesting the shot. Stuff like that. Got a couple perimeter blocks today too. That hasn't happened in a while.
You had a couple of triple doubles with blocks in college. You hoping to get one of those here soon?
Yeah, no, for sure. That'd be great. Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be great. I'm not really searching for it, but if it happens, it happens. But I think, and I know I say this all the time, so I'm sure y'all are getting tired of it. But I think I play my best when I'm just trying to have fun and win and compete.
How are you starting to see that chemistry with Isaiah?
Yeah, he's a great player. He's a great young player. Obviously a great passer, great defender. So he's doing really well right now. I'm really proud of how he's kind of come into this and become his own player. But chemistry-wise, he's great. He does a good job of pushing the pace, getting guys open, getting guys in positions to score. And then on the defensive side, he's a bulldog. He doesn't stray away from challenges. He's going to hit it head on. And he's doing well.
I'm curious, you played a lot of zone today, and you played it in the season past with the guys, so it's not new to you. But have you played a lot of zone in college or high school, or how?
Yeah, we did. In college, we played a lot of zone. And high school, we played a lot of zone. I've been playing zone my whole life.
So you feel pretty comfortable and pretty familiar with what Will's zone is?
It's different in the NBA though, because you defense in 3 seconds. So in college and high school, I had a tent, campfire. I was making s'mores. Challenging anyone to come in the paint. But it's obviously different when you're rotating stuff like that. Awesome, thank you all.
That's Walker Kessler, 16 points, 8 boards, 6 blocks as the Jazz beat the Lakers 131-119. Next up for the Jazz, before the All-Star break, they take on the Clippers tonight at Delta Center. That game will tip off at 7. Pregame begins at 6.
Jazz with the big win. They're right back at it. They play the Clippers tonight. Now that's a makeup game for the LA Fires. And then they go on the All-Star break. Got to tell you, DJ and PK is proudly presented by our title sponsor, Black Desert Resort, Utah's premier golf resort. All right, what's trending? Coming up next, stay with us, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know.
News update.
This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag Utah Jazz.
The character of any group is going to be reflective of kind of the summation of the character of all the individuals. Like the players deserve all the credit. They're all tough, they're all smart, they're all really good human beings, they're good teammates, they're respectful people, they have humility, they take coaching, they take ownership of the things that they need to do better. We don't have a group that points fingers, we don't have a group that complains under their breath. I think we've developed a really healthy communication between the group. It's blunt, it's to the point. I think the team as a whole has lost the sensitivity to just like, hey, this is what we see, and that could be coach to player, it can be player to player. Like, I think the way that our team has communicated with each other and the way that that has grown throughout the season has been a massive piece of that. It's allowed us to move through the tough moments because we just face it head on as a group and keep moving. But they deserve all the credit because ultimately the character of the group is a summation of all of their characters individually.
The Boy Scouts beat the Lakers yesterday. How about that? Our guys are the best. What certainly were last night, 131-119. Man, they shot 52% from the floor. Wow, the Lakers mailing it in themselves. The Lakers shot 56% from the free throw line. Everybody played well. The character was on high alert. What can you say? If you're going to play like that and shoot like that, Lowry Markkanen, 11 of 18, 6 of 10 from 3, 32 points. Wow. What a game. And they improved to 13-40. Ooh, makes me a little nervous, though, on the standings as they continue to fight. And are they going to play themselves out of a bottom pick? You know, they are now one game ahead of the Pelicans. And the Pelicans are intent on losing, that's for sure. Giving away Ingram and sitting guys, and Zion rarely plays. And then you
played
got
last night, though.
Yeah, good for him. And they still lost. And you got Charlotte at 13. So I think Washington, right now, I think Washington and New Orleans are going to have worse records than the Jazz. I was trying to figure out how to phrase that. Fewer wins, I guess, more losses, and that equals up to a worse record. And so that's 2 right there. So now you're battling with Charlotte, and Charlotte sits guys, and they stink. Okay. That's what you want. Good character on those dudes. Way to go. And now they're back at action tonight against the Lakers. And the coverage begins at 6 p.m. right here. I don't think Jake Scott's going to be there, but Tim Lacombe is. And the Clippers beat the Grizzlies. Clippers are a good team. We'll see what they do as far as resting guys, what they're looking at. So there you go. That is your NBA. The Jazz with a very nice win. Anytime you can beat the Lakers, it's good. Whether you got bad character, good character, or anything in between, it is absolutely fine to beat the Lakers, isn't it? It's always fun. You feel good about beating the Lakers as they drop to 1-1 with their new star-studded lineup. Let's go on to the NBA.
Hashtag NBA.
Marshall had it wide open and then lost the ball, got it back. Shovels to Kyrie. He'll take the 3. He makes the 3. Wow! Kyrie off the broken play.
Waits for Draymond and Butler to get up the floor. Over to Curry for 3. Right side. Good!
Golden State on top by 1. Curry!
Murray has it on the high left side, gets a slip pick from Jokic. Murray goes to the left hand, spin move at the dotted line, jumper. Got it! 55, a career high, Jamal Murray. And this thing is over!
Brunson going to work against Daniels. Between the legs a couple of times from the top. Now Brunson, top of the key jumper, knocks it down. Knicks lead by 1, 11.1 seconds to go. Timeout Atlanta.
Zubac has it near block, shovels Kawhi, looks at Bogdanovich, drives, and dunks it! A right-handed rim rocker for Kawhi Leonard, who looks spry as ever with 23.
Spry as ever with 23. Way to go. The Clippers, I just told you, they beat the Grizzlies. Jamal Murray, 55 points. Ho! He was hot. He had it going on. The Nuggets, without their starting forwards, Gordon and Porter, it don't matter when you're playing like that, huh? Very impressive night. And then I think the Nuggets have won 8 in a row. Maybe they're getting it together, and they're just kind of laying in the weeds there, ready to do their thing when we get to mid-April, May, and maybe even June.
And it all kind of corresponds with Jamal Murray coming alive offensively.
Oh, yeah, he's woken up from his slumber.
He was in a bit of a lull there. So
Did he make the All-Star team this year? Not again, because I don't think he's ever made it.
I don't think he made it this year, no.
No, neither do I. And I'm pretty sure he's never made it there. So, way to go, Nuggets. They improved to 36-19. And then you heard the Mavericks and the Warriors. The Mavericks is all this controversy. Kyrie Irving says, what controversy? I'm born and raised in New Jersey. I live with controversy every day. This ain't nothing. From my mother's hometown of West Orange, New Jersey. He goes for 42. And then, let's see. Oh, what do we got? The Lakers ratings. A hit for ESPN registered a peak of 2.5 million viewers, which is a 42% increase over last year's average NBA games on ESPN. Yeah, there's some theory out there that, well, sure, the league orchestrated that because the ratings have been in the tank. The TV, the almighty TV ratings, the ultimate barometer of all things at all times, TV ratings. And so they needed to jolt, and they got it. You buy that? Were the Mavs forced to give them Doncic? Well, that's some line of thinking.
Adam Silver's calling Dallas and saying, here's what you're going to do.
Yeah. Well, it's entertainment, and the ratings, the be-all, end-all, the TV ratings, they're everything. And so people watched. Now, I would have watched either way. I probably would have watched even if it wasn't the Jazz, to tell you the truth. They sucked me in, so I get it. To see how he does there. It's a storyline, right? I mean, right now, as we speak, it's the biggest storyline in the league. Is how will this work out with one aging superstar who's still got plenty of game and a kid who's about to turn 26 in about 16 days, I think it is. It's this month. And, he took the Mavs to the finals last year. He's been really good. So I get it. It's a storyline. I'm involved in it. They, as I say, they suckered me into it. There you go. And there's some other games in the NBA, but you can look at your phone and figure out who you want to see, who won. Let's move on to college basketball.
Hashtag college basketball.
Texas Tech have beat the Sun Devils in a double overtime thriller, 111-106. The Devils having one of their usual miserable seasons, and Texas Tech ranked 12th. What would it have meant in the Big 12? Well, it didn't mean anything because Texas Tech won. Way to go. JT Toppin, 41 points and 15 boards. I know the Devils were without their 17-year-old center who's ineligible for the draft this year, but if you look at 26 mock drafts, he's picked to go in the top 10. I think he has a sprained ankle or something, so he is not playing, and they got killed on the boards. But That's the way it goes there. Tonight we got SUU in that Southern Utah battle with Utah Tech. That's at 6:30. Weber State going up to Montana State. That's a 7 o'clocker for an ESPNer. We'll get more basketball as we start to move towards the weekend tomorrow, and then obviously on game day for the two teams. The Aggies don't play till Sunday against New Mexico.
Let's clarify one thing. ESPN plus-er, not ESPN-er.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the same thing, is it not, my good friends?
One's called the mothership, the other one's a streaming.
What is a mothership? I don't. What is that? What does that mean? Mothership?
All ESPN, the mothership.
Why?
Good question.
Does anybody watch ESPN anymore outside of games? I mean, Scotty a couple weeks ago. Oh, that'll be on SportsCenter. Yeah, hello, 25 years ago.
Valid point.
Who watches SportsCenter? And that's stuff that they're trying to promote. Anybody into that? I mean, especially now for me, I just watch. I guess if college basketball doesn't have a network, but if I want to watch NBA stuff, I go to NBA TV. NFL stuff, NFL TV. Now, Yak, follow along in my storyline. MLB, where do you think I go? MLB Network. Jeez, come on.
Okay.
Freaking follow along. I will say that the New Mexico Lobos, they squeaked by Wyoming last night. Now, they were down big. That's the game when the Jazz game got out of hand. That's the game that I switched over to, and because I love to see the New Mexico fans just go in a full panic when New Mexico gets down by 2.
Yeah. Did you see the quote from Sundance Wicks, the Wyoming coach, last night?
I did not. What did he say?
We have wringed everything out of these guys. That was the quote he had.
Well, 71-67, they were right there.
They hung tough, yeah.
Yeah, and they had a nice lead early in the game, but the Lobos caught them as far as that goes. Now, they are off. Both teams are off Saturday. Why do I keep saying Saturday? Sunday at 2 o'clock. On the CBS Sports Network, it is Utah State at New Mexico. And for those of you who are interested, and you should be, man, it's one of our teams in the state, and first place on the line. Now, first place isn't that big of a deal because you have an opportunity in the Mountain West Conference Tournament, but you still want to win the league. I mean, there's no question about it. I think winning your league over the course of, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, 9 weeks, however many conference games you play, I think it's a big deal. I really do. I think that that's something that's worth trying to achieve. And you got New Mexico at 13-1 and the Ags at 12-2. My guess is that both would go to the NCAA tournament. I would have no problem with that. New Mexico's streaking. They've won 7 in a row. And the Ags, after that loss, they've now won 3 in a row. So we'll see about that. And that'll be a game to pay attention to. Okay, let's go on to the NFL.
Hashtag NFL.
Jerry got my number blocked. I couldn't even get it. I couldn't even call Jerry. Jerry got my number blocked. Are you upset that Derrick Henry didn't come to Dallas? I said, nah, that's not how God worked. He was exactly where he was supposed to be.
Exactly.
Year 8, 9 his career, still going for 1,800 yards, playoffs. He was exactly where he's supposed to be. I'm happy that I didn't get ruined by us.
What? I didn't hear that last part. The voice got high. I couldn't make it out. Derrick Henry. Why would Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones have him blocked? Is he just making a joke?
There was, when he was on the trade block, there were thoughts that Dallas may want to bring him in, but
God don't want him there.
He landed right where he needs to be.
God want him in Baltimore. Of course. We can see that. I thought Kelsey was going to come back, and he's having the time of his life. Now he's going to take some time for deciding on if he wants to play again. I know everybody wants to know whether I'm playing next year, and right now I'm just kicking everything down the road. I'm kicking every can down the road. I'm not making any crazy decisions. Well, not everybody wants to know, Travis. I really couldn't care less whether you come back or not. It's up to you. If your body is healthy and you want to give it another shot, I say do it. If you've had enough, you've had an accomplished career either way. And you probably achieved more than you thought possible when you were a little kid, unless you had outrageous dreams. And good for you. You're going to go in the Hall of Fame. You've been that good. And if your brother stepped aside last year, if you want to do it, I think it's awesome. He's in a no-lose situation. That's really cool to be in that situation. Whatever he decides, he'll be just fine. If he has enough, has had enough, I say take off. But if you still got the itch, go ahead and run it back, as they say. Bengals QB Joe Burrow indicated a willingness to adjust or alter his contract and the franchise sign to retain key players. Now, of course, that's Chase and Higgins, the receivers, obviously. And on Pardon My Take, which I don't know what that is, but that's some podcast, Burrow said, you can convert some of the money to a signing bonus, which will lower the cap hit. You can push some of the money to the back of the contract. That lowers the cap hit. And when you get to the back end of the contract, you can reconstruct it and convert it into a signing bonus. You can also just take less money. Don't do that! No! Nuts. So he's thinking about maybe what Tom Brady did and help the Patriots be all that. And whatever Tom Brady did not get, he's certainly got in other areas here. His big, fat, massive contract he has in television. Obviously, he's not hurting for any money. NFL free agent wide receiver Kadarius Toney was arrested in Georgia on 2 counts, aggravated assault and strangulation and obstructing, harassing 911 calls after an incident with a woman last month. What do you say on that? Just leave that right there. Let's move on to college football.
Hashtag college football.
Matty Patty going to Ohio State. Matt Patricia, you remember him? Lions head coach from 2018 to 2020, and he was with the New England Patriots for a long time as the D coordinator, and he's going to go to the college ranks and become Ohio State's defensive coordinator. Former West Virginia star Pat White returning to his alma mater to join Rich Rodriguez's staff as the Mountaineers' assistant QB coach and assistant to the head coach. Of course, he played for old Rich Rod in 2005-07. I'm really interested to see how that's going to work. Rich Rod going back and becoming the head coach. It's happened before. I think John Robinson did it at USC, did he not? There's been a few.
Well, we've got Scott Frost going back to UCF alongside Rich Rod going back to West Virginia.
Yeah.
So it's obviously here locally. We had Gary Anderson do 2 tours up there at Utah State.
Didn't go as well the second one.
There's mixed bag in terms
Bobby
of
Houck at UNLV went back.
Montana State, yeah. He's still there. Well, he's still what?
I think he is. And he had a lot of success there.
He did.
And then go to Vegas, and Vegas wasn't having much success and going through a slew and string of coaches. And then he went back. Speaking of UNLV, this is an awful story. Ben Christman was found dead in his off-campus apartment. Now, he's a senior. Had transferred after previous stops at Ohio State and most recently Kentucky. I don't know what went on there. I guess we'll have to figure that one out wait for other information to come out. And Dan Mullen had just taken over. It'd be interesting to see what Dan Mullen can do. Obviously, Odom had it going on, and then he goes over to Purdue. He had it going on in a manner that hadn't been seen in Vegas. Long time, if forever. And now, they're playing in the stadium now as opposed to the Sam Boyd thing. See if that makes a difference. But what can Dan Mullen do? It's interesting that Dan Mullen waited, and then got this gig and goes and takes it. And so we're following that. There's been a little bit of a UNLV fan as far as they got a lot of high school players there. It's a very good, talented area for high school players. Just been able to keep them. Haven't been very successful at that. All right, let's go on to baseball.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
Well, last night we've been waiting. Now spring training's open. Everybody either reported yesterday or today. Now that's as far as the pitchers and catchers, and then everybody, the rest of the team, they're already there. The rest of the team, players have been there. They get there a couple of weeks early, but officially don't have to report to either Monday or Tuesday. And he's a free agent with the Houston Astros for many years. Signs a 3-year, $120 million deal with the Red Sox. Now, they got Rafael Devers to play third, which is what Bregman played, so they're talking about moving him over to second base. We'll see how that works in a competitive American League East. And the Padres signed Nick Pivetta to a 4-year, $55 million deal to bolster their pitching staff. Let's see what's going on there. Nick Pivetta. I always thought when I first heard that, I thought, oh man, is he related to Dick Pivetta? Because if you say it really fast, Pivetta sounds like Pivetta.
Nick Pivetta? Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, but he's a right-handed pitcher. And then,
this
oh my gosh.
This guy's not going to wave off a three-pointer that was very clear.
No, a sore spot. Pouring salt, why don't you? And allowing one that shouldn't have been allowed.
I'm just still scarred.
That would have changed everything.
It would have helped.
No, did you just take those 3 points, subtract them, add them, and nothing else would have changed after that. And every other call was the right call, and non-call was the correct non-call. But Pivetta, yeah, those were sad times and those sore subject. Now about this, man. We've been talking about this. Angels third baseman Anthony Rendon. He's going to go undergo hip surgery and say he's going to be out a long time indefinitely. They ought to call him Al Capone because he steals money. I mean, he has been hurt the whole time. Unfortunate for the Angels. I guess unfortunate for him. Unfortunate for Mike Trout. Same old story there. That free agent signing has just gone up in smoke. An absolute bust. Okay, let's move on.
#golf.
The Genesis Invitational, which is usually played at Riviera Country Club, but because of the fires is not going, it's going to go south to Torrey Pines where they had just played. Tony Finau, he didn't play in Phoenix, even though he has a house there, Scottsdale, that he's going to be in this field though. So we'll see how that gets going. They're going to have a bunch of rain. Is that they talking about
an atmospheric river?
Yeah,
it's going to drop snow on us, but it's going to have rain down there.
So we'll have to see how that plays out. That's kind of a bummer. Okay, now we need to move on to the NHL. One more, big fella.
#NHL.
The Four Nations face-off began with Canada beating Sweden in Montreal. That was a 4-3 OT victory. Canada taking care of Sweden in Montreal. They're playing in Montreal and Boston. And tonight, we got the other two, the U.S. taking on Finland at 6 o'clock. This match is available on ESPN, and we've got a couple of guys, Vilimaki and Mata from our team, the Utah Hockey Club. They'll be suiting up for the Finnish team, and so we'll see how that goes. I'll probably check some of that out before the Jazz game, see what our guys do. This is going to be a big deal, especially up at that part of the country in the Northeast and in Canada. Absolutely is going to be a big deal. Okay, what is trending is brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. We're going to be all Cougars from 8 to 9. Mitch Harper, our BYU insider for KSL Sports, is going to join us. Then, don't worry, you Ute fans, because then we're going to flip it from 9 to 10, and we're going to talk Utes with Steve Bartle, who's our Utah Utes insider for KSL Sports. And we've got recruiting, we've got spring ball to preview, all sorts of stuff with those guys. So we'll get to that at the top of the hour. Joining me now is my guy. Yeah, I call him JB. He's known as John Brooks. His wife, Kimberly, calls him Sweetie. John, good morning.
Good morning, PK. How are you, buddy?
I am doing good. Now, it is Valentine's Day tomorrow. So you got that, plus you got a whole lot of other stuff, all sorts of occasions throughout the year with J. Brooks Jewelers. Tell us what's going on.
Well, I think you say it well. I think that celebrating big life's events is something that we do really well. Celebrating these moments that you just swing by. You just never know when something's going to change on a heartbeat, and you say, gosh, I wish I'd have done this or wish I'd done that. So today we're here to remind you that tomorrow's Valentine's Day. Women love this holiday because it's all about them, something you can get for them. And for you, we make it easy. We had a lot of guys in yesterday ahead of the schedule. It's usually a 2 or 3 day holiday, but we had a lot of guys in yesterday. And we make it easy for you because whatever gift you pick, We have wonderful little finish for you where we provide all the flowers and the chocolate for you. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. So whether you want to surprise her with a new pair of earrings, we talked about hoops the other day, or add a little necklace to her stack, or a bracelet. I was shipping out a bracelet to Nashville, Tennessee today for a customer who realized Valentine's had snuck up on him. We've got something for you and ready to go, and we'll accommodate you, whether we need to deliver it to you or ship it to you, or you want to pick up in store. And you can always check us out. The best place to start is online at jbrooksjewelers.com, where you just kind of get a flavor of what we're about and who we're about. Really, they let me work there, but really it's a group of women who know what other women want. And so we have a selection that I really think is second to none in the Valley, fashion-wise, pieces to add on to her wedding, whether we want to add on to her wedding set or add on to her collection. I think you'd be very pleased with the great selection and the great value.
Yeah, when you say that, the 2 days of the year that are all about women, guys, shut up. And that's Valentine's and Mother's Day, right?
That's exactly right.
You don't deserve those. You don't deserve any recognition in either of those Tuesdays. That is for the lovely species of the female quality. And Valentine's is one of those days. And it's one of those days where you have to deliver, man. You could maybe slack off the other ones, but not this one. You've got to step up your game.
No. And every once in a while, somebody will forget to do something. A lady came in the other day. It was pretty funny. Just on a side note, and they'd forgotten her birthday.
Ooh.
She got up that morning. No one said happy birthday to her. Wow. None of the kids said anything. She was at our store by noon and bought herself a beautiful $10,000 pair of earrings. And she had her own birthday party, had it with her friends. And so we don't want to forget. It's much more expensive if you forget. It's much easier to come in and do something that really says, hey, I love you and thanks for being great. And as you said the other day, carrying 95% of the load.
Yeah, 2 locations in Murray, 152 East Winchester over by the mall, and Lehigh, 1791 West Travis Parkway, Suite B. Those are right off the freeway. And as John said, jbrooksjewelers.com. That's J, the initial, jbrooksjewelers.com. John will be with us throughout the morning talking about what you can do to make yourself look good and make her happy. So stay with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
You have to be able to shoot in the NBA now outside of maybe a big. I think we're going the direction of even if you're 6'8", if you're a non-shooter, you're in trouble. I've watched it, Ben. I've watched the evolution where you could have 3 non-shooters 10 years ago. Then it went to 2 non-shooters about 5 years ago. When are we getting to the point where it's 1 non-shooter? And eventually, do we go to 0 non-shooters? I don't know. But we're headed.
Celtics won last year with 0 non-shooters. If you're not going to be a great shooter, you really need to have a superpower elsewhere. And the 2 guys I would think about are Jimmy Butler and Ja Morant, who are non-shooters, Ja Morant's the most athletic player in the NBA, and Jimmy has some of the best on-court work ethic when he's dialed in as anybody we've seen. He's a great defensive player.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Guys, Valentine's Day is here. What better to say, I love you, than with an original cozy and classic Mickey Couture blanket. Save 50% using the promo code ZONE50. ZONE50 in stores and online at MickeyCouture.com. Mickey Couture has got you covered, literally, this Valentine's Day. All right, I'm out last night, people. I'm partying hard on a Wednesday. Back at Northern Arizona when the weekend started on Wednesday, which was probably why the GPA wasn't what it should have been. I picked it up more as I matured and transferred back to the Valley and went to ASU. But went out last night with another couple, and the guy says to me, well, what's there to talk about, man? The Jazz, they're no good this year. And I said, yeah, so what? What they do record-wise in the final score does not determine what we can talk about. Would it be better if they were 40-13 instead of 13-40? Yes, no doubt about it. But I think there are plenty of promising signs. Now, I know it's easier for me to say because I'm not a live and dyer by the final result. I enjoy the competition is what draws me in. And you look at storylines for the Jazz as we approach the All-Star break. Right there, we just had Will Hardy. Let's go right with the top, with the tallest guy, Walker Kessler. against the Lakers. Now, they don't really have a center, but there are not that many good centers in the league anymore anyway. Walker Kessler has arguably the best game he's had this season. 8 for 8 from the field. Yeah, you don't do better than that, do you? No. 16 points, 8 boards, which is a little low for him. Only had 2 offensive rebounds, but then you wonder, why do you only have 2 offensive rebounds? Well, the Jazz shot 52.5% from the field. So there's not that many offensive rebounds to be had. He did get 2. He's a great offensive rebounder. And then this is the biggie, folks. We're going back to Mark Eaton days. 6 blocks. 6 blocks. If that's not a storyline, I don't know what is. Yeah, that's huge. Embrace it. Run with it. Enjoy it. Collier, 9 assists. 4 turnovers, it's a little high for him. I'm on that bandwagon, folks. Who's joining me? Who still has, I'm not so sure. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be this or that. We'll have to decide over time. He's 20 friggin' years old. He does not turn 21 until next October. 20 years old. So if you put it at that way, that's a storyline, is it not? I absolutely think it is. The last time he had fewer than 9 assists was the first game of the month in a win over Orlando, in which, coincidentally, he played the fewest minutes of this month. Played 28 minutes. He's played more than that in every game since then, and he's had at least 9, and in 4 of the 6 games, he's had double figures. Is that not a storyline? Can you not get behind that? Or it's like, nah, they're losing. Who cares? There's no storylines. You still into that? That's your choice. I can't convince you. I can't convince anybody of anything, which is one of the reasons why I no longer try. If you don't see it my way, fine. You can be wrong too. If you want to see it my way, then you can be right. It's up to you. Let's see, the Sensabaugh thing. I mean, DJ, he'll be back Monday. He thinks they're sitting him to purposely lose. Well, it didn't work. Cody Williams, that's a big old incomplete, is it not? All I could think is he's not ready to perform at this level. He's too skinny. He had 3 steals. He's just been getting minutes here and there. Now, George had one of his better games. I don't know what to think of him. He shows promise, 7 of 12, 10 assists, so he's passing the ball, 7 boards. I can argue that he had his best game of the season. And Locke was on last week, and he gets inside the numbers, telling me his effective field goal percentage is a lot better once Collier has taken over the ball handling duties, so maybe there's something there. And George, he's a whopping 21, who doesn't turn 22 until next November. It's not like he's about to be 22. He's still got several months to go. He's got to get more consistent, and with that, there's an opportunity there. So, and that's 3 storylines. Those storylines work for you, Yock, because they do for me.
Yeah, they work. The biggest thing is that I think all of us, amidst what they're doing right now, there's a lot, and you see it on social media. People are upset saying that they're ruining the franchise. No. The simple fact of the matter is, if they're going to win games like they won last night, you want to see the young Bucks lead the way on that. And you mentioned Walker Kessler. You mentioned guys like Isaiah Collier.
George. Those 3 guys
George,
played very well.
20 and 10. Yeah, absolutely incredible. Those are the guys. If you're going to win games, PK, those are the guys that you need to have win the game for you.
So that's kind of, at least if you're going to win, make sure those guys. Markkanen had a big game.
Well, I was going to say, but Markkanen right now is signed on a long-term deal. He's supposed to be the cornerstone for these young guys to be able to play off of. So he's a little bit absolved of what I'm talking about here. But if you're going to win games, you want the young Bucks to be the ones leading the way.
and have great games, and all three of those guys did. I think the others, Williams is a big old question mark. Filipowski, he belongs on NBA team. To what degree remains to be seen. And obviously Hendricks is out, so we've got him over there. The Jazz have got to get themselves a top 3 pick. They get themselves a top 3 pick, they're getting Ace Bailey. And I think at worst, you're getting Ace Bailey. At worst. The kid out of Rutgers, 6'10", skinny, but got a lot of ability. Go watch him play. And he'll come out after his freshman year. You got something right there. He can, and then if Hendricks can develop, and you got as long and athletic guys up front with Kessler anchoring the middle, you got something there. Now you're going to have to be patient, and I know your patience are wearing thin. I get it. I understand it. I'm with you, but I think there's some sunshine among the clouds. That's all I'm saying, people. Sunshine among the clouds. Now, when you tell your friends, your wife, whoever it may be, that you listened to PK today and they say, what was he talking about? He's talking about the Jazz. You going to work right now? And what would he say? He said, there's sunshine among the clouds. You know, think about this, people. Stay with me for a minute, would you please? As I morph into my Mr. Rogers voice. There is, my friends. The sun is always out. It's just sometimes you simply can't see it, but it is there. It's like your faith in the Almighty. Have you seen him? Probably not, maybe a picture or two, but you know he's there. It's the same thing. And think about it, people. You know, I have fun with this on the religious topic. I like to poke Yak and DJ, two very, very religious individuals.
Devout, yes.
But when I say the sun is there, that's with a U and an O.
Look at you go.
You see what I done?
I see what you done.
Right.
I see what you done did.
That's my wisdom that I'm imparting to you. There is sunshine among the clouds. The sun is always there. Now, who will be there in the top chair for BYU with the Tom Holmoe retirement? Oh, I got some thoughts on that. Stay with us. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, bro. You hear us every day with our crazy opinions. Hey, what you doing? Well, now, it's time to hear from you.
Hey, great show.
Download the KSL Sports app and fire off your thoughts with the call-in tab on the bottom of your screen.
Your show is fantastic. It's the one that captivates me the most.
You can tell PK to stop singing.
Cheap bass, cheap bass.
Let Jake and Ben know what you really think of the Jazz. Woo! Tell Hans and Scotty about your favorite barbecue spot or what color of tie JJ should be wearing on TV. The best entries will be played on the air. Download the KSL Sports app now and hit the call-in button to let your voice be heard.
I think you guys do an incredible job.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Let's step back a little bit on a couple of fronts and allow people to grow and mature. We had on Rondo Feldberg yesterday. Go listen to that wherever you get your podcasts. That's what DJ says, so I'm going to copy what he says. Wherever you get your podcasts. And he talked about the maturity of Brian Santiago. In my mind, if they went on strictly resume, it's a no-brainer that Brian Santiago will succeed Tom Holmoe as the athletic director. Now, I don't know what they're going to do there as far as how they're going to decide that. You know, if you want somebody who is beloved by everyone, Chad Lewis is your guy. Right? If he wants it. I don't know that he wants it. I don't know that he doesn't want it. Maybe he wants it. He's Mr. Nice Guy, for sure. He's beloved by everyone. He has an endearing, warm personality that rivals that of Kalani Sitake. And I can say even a little bit more so. Kalani's had to fire people. He had to fire the first or second most beloved BYU football figure of all time in Ty Detmer. Like, you remember when they fired him, and I put it out on Twitter that he's been notified that he's not going to be returned. People got him, oh, they didn't fire him. They're just reassigning him. No, that wasn't the truth. He was being fired. And it happens. So be it, right? And he had to fire some other guys. And this is the nature of the business. But I think that you have to look at Brian Santiago and allow him to mature and develop and evolve. Now, Tom Holmoe said this himself. This was Tom's statement yesterday, that he, speaking of Brian, is Tom's right-hand man, quote, his wingman. Those two have been together. Brian, a few years back, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I'm not exactly sure, he made a decision in his life that he wanted to be athletic director. He's a guy, I think he played at UVU basketball when he was at JC and went over to Fresno. Very loyal guy. Of that I can guarantee you. Very loyal guy. Played for Gary Colson to the point where I believe he named his son Colson in honor of his college coach. That tells you something right there, right? The family's from Provo. I think his brother is going to be a mission president here this summer. So you got that aspect of it. I think Brian has or is serving as a Latter-day Saint bishop. So that aspect is taken care of. You don't have to worry about that for sure. And in this situation, that's important to the job at BYU, obviously. And as somebody who's been training and who's been in the trenches, so to speak, for this long, to me, sounds like that is something that ought to happen. And if you got somebody who is in your department, and this goes across the board, any place, any organization, any form of employment, if you got somebody who's toiled as an assistant for several years and from what we hear has done a good job, and if that person is promoted, then I think it builds incentive within your particular department, because there'll be another guy who'll come along and who will be in his 20s and 30s and 40s, and another young lady who will mature. And if they see, wow, if I really bust it and do what I'm supposed to do and move along, then I too can ascend in this company. So then you get to keep good people. So I think there's a lot of benefits there if they go in that direction. You know, whichever direction they go. If they go Chad Lewis, it's personally fine with me. But I'm just touting somebody who has paid dues for many, many years. And I like grinders in my life because that's what I think I am. Had to pay a lot of dues. Didn't walk into this. Had to work hard to get it. And then when I got it, it's been awesome. And I would like to see somebody like Santiago, who's paid dues and worked his butt off to get where he is, be rewarded for that. So that's my thought, and we'll see what happens. We'll get Mitch Harper's thoughts here in a second. He's sitting down. First, I got to get the great thoughts when it comes to what to do on Valentine's Day, and really any day of the year. It doesn't have to be a literal special occasion for all of us. It could be any day of the year, because every day of the year somebody it's special to. And I'm talking to John Brooks from J. Brooks Jewelers. John, you got so much going on. The J. Brooks collection, it's a wonderful collection of new engagement rings and wedding bands, all built right here in Utah. Utah bred, brother. Tell us about it.
That's right. We over the years, we've done a lot of custom, but over the last 7 years in particular, the brides, with all the options online that people see, they want to be able to create their own one-of-a-kind piece. And so from that creation of hundreds and hundreds of engagement rings, we have created a collection of what we think is our favorite 25 or 35 styles that we think are the best, and each of them named after a bride that kind of came up with this creation, this kind of look. And so we think it's a very fun collection. Again, designed by all designed in-house by our staff, all designed with the help of some of the brides who had thoughts and collections. And then the best part, I think, is all made and hand manufactured right here in Salt Lake City.
That's cool.
And so nothing's done in overseas or somewhere else as far as that. Yeah. So I think it's wonderful. And it's the craftsmanship, just nothing finer than what we're doing in the J. Brooks collection. So whether you want to have us help you and design something that we already have that's ready to go, and you can get really brave and get engaged tomorrow,
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Do you see a piggyback with Valentine's and engagements on the same day? What's your experience there?
Guys might call that a 2-for-1.
Good.
So we can get Valentine's handled and we can get engaged all at the same time. So Valentine's is a very popular day to get engaged. And so if you want to do that, we've got a lot of things that are made up and ready to go. But if you want to do something fun for her, or whether it be pearl earrings or necklace or something like that, and then start the process, I always encourage the guys to bring her in, let her see some things, let her pick a few things that she would like, and then we have some direction that we're headed. We want white gold, we want yellow gold, whatever it might be. And then we can build to her taste and then surprise her. The best surprise isn't necessarily what she gets as much as when she gets it and how you give it to her. That can be a big fun part of the engagement process.
Oh, that's what I did. I'm a romantic fool. We went in together many years ago, and then it was Christmas Day, and we were driving in a car, and I stopped over to the side for something. I got to get something. I said, open the glove box. It's in there. What I'm looking for. And there was the ring.
There you go.
Oh, and the rest is history. Wedded bliss for years and years. And with Valentine's Day, you have a special bonus. You go in and get something. You'll also include flowers and chocolates, too. A triple header.
A one-stop shop. Make it really easy for you. Men want it to be simple. That's why our locations are right off the freeway, not inside the mall, in and out, and just as simple as possible. So whether you come in Murray by Fashion Place or down in Lehigh across from just east of the outlet malls, I think you'll find it. And take a look on jbrooksjewelers.com. You get a good insight of who we are, what we're about, and it's a great place to start.
J. Brooks Jewelers, jbrooksjewelers.com. That is John. He'll be with us a few more times this morning. Thanks, John.
Thank you, PK.
All right, we're talking BYU and everything that's involved with the Cougars at 9 o'clock. We'll be doing that with the Utes, but stay with us. We got Mitch Harper, our KSL Sports Insider for the Cougars, coming up next right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Visit the contest page at KSLSports.com for your chance to win Jazz tickets, Utah Hockey Club tickets, concert tickets, and more. Plus, this week, we're giving away tickets to the Utah Sportsman's Vacation and RV Show, February 13th, that's obviously today, through the 16th at the Mountain America Expo Center. Visit KSLSports.com for your chance to win. Joining us now for this hour will be Mitch Harper, our BYU Insider for KSL Sports. At 9 o'clock, we'll turn it over to Steve Bartle. Now, we don't want those guys. We got to make sure we separate because those guys are rivals. So we got to send Mitch out one door, and then we'll bring in Steve in the other door. Getting those two together, it's like Patrick Mahomes Sr. and John Rocker. Did you see all that?
Oh, okay.
I don't know what was going on there. Well, I think that might have been staged. I don't know. But those two going face-to-face, nose-to-nose in New Orleans last week, I guess.
It'll be like John Chaney, John Calipari back in the day where we're just fighting. That's what we do in press conferences.
I'll kill you!
Right after Harlan's going off, me and Bartle had our own exchange.
Yes, that'll be rough. You're two big guys. I'd like to actually see that. See who can win. Maybe we could do that for home field advantage. So, Mitch is in for the next hour or so. Let's start off with the AD thing since that's fresh. Tom Holmoe, I was talking to him, communicating with him last night, and we're just going on, and I can remember when he got the job. He was interim director. They had a couple of guys there. A guy named Peter Pilling was also there. And then Tom went out, got the job. And one of the things he did shortly thereafter is he called up me and Gordon Monson. And we met him at a Mexican restaurant in downtown Provo upstairs. And we met him for like 3 hours. And he's a media savvy guy. And he wanted to talk to us. Both of us were working for the newspaper. Both of us were doing the radio. Eventually, I obviously gave up the newspaper and concentrated on the radio and electronic stuff. And so just remember, this guy's sharp. He's a people person, and he's going to do good things. And then when he got done, he came over and was talking to the meeting. And he looked at me, and he says, "Man, we've been doing this a long time." And I said, "We have." And, job well done. But there's a new day. It's the way it works. I think as I look at it, I don't know what they're going to do. But I think if you go by resume, I don't see how they don't give it to Brian Santiago.
I'm with you, PK, and it makes a lot of sense. And, Brian Santiago, he was involved in setting up a lot of the the marquee coaching hires that are in place right now with Kalani Sitake and Kevin Young. You know, Kalani Sitake's long-term extension, Brian Santiago was involved in that. And getting Kevin Young as the BYU basketball head coach, which was a dream hire for BYU basketball, you can give a lot of credit to Brian Santiago on that and his connections in basketball. And I remember sitting in Kevin Young's office this summer talking about it, and he gave a lot of credit to Santiago. So he's got relationships where you just kind of keep the machine going with the athletic department if you hire Brian Santiago. I think a lot of fans would maybe say, you know, maybe go outside. Maybe is there some Kevin Young type hire that's outside of the BYU bubble that could make a real splash? But, you know, maybe continuity would be the move to just go forward. And, you know, because Tom Holmoe's legacy, I think, will be the fact that BYU's fan base and interest grew somehow when you were playing the likes of Savannah State and San Diego in basketball, yet the fan base, the money, the commitment, it all grew. And that's pretty remarkable when you kind of take a step back and see and think about, because those were tough times in Independence and WCC. And he kind of, Holmoe even alluded to some of that when years 5 and 6 in his tenure as the AD, he's like, I don't know if I can do this job. And but he got on the other side and got BYU to the places that they were, dreaming of for so many years.
When you have a situation where you're going in to replace somebody successful, and by all accounts, Tom Holmoe was successful. I don't think anybody can doubt that. And he was a bridge builder himself. That I think in those situations, you don't have to take and decide based on the outgoing person. But I think the outgoing person's input is extremely important, and I'm going to point to a couple of situations, good and bad. I don't think, going back 25 years, that the administration at that time really took the input from Lavelle Edwards on what he thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't, I don't think the choice that they made was Lavelle Edwards' choice. If he were given the choice, I think he goes in a different direction. And as sad as it is and unfortunate for those involved, that hire didn't work out. It was a disaster. Doesn't mean they're not good people, but it just didn't work out. And there's a multitude of reasons. So that's for the bad. Then I can cite one from the good. And boy, it really turned out great. And this is going back in 2004, 2005. Chris Hill hires Urban Meyer. And Chris then brings in Urban. And Chris and the people around him, was one other person in particular who was super close to Chris, working in the athletic department at the time, told Urban Meyer, we strongly suggest that you retain Kyle Whittingham. And Urban, to his credit, he could have brought in anybody he wanted. He was the boss when it came to that, right? And he listened. And he retained Kyle Whittingham. And they go 22-2 with an awesome defense. And then at that point, when Urban leaves, he's leaving from a position of power and success. So then it's a no-brainer to give the job to Kyle. And imagine if, I don't know what would have happened, but suppose Urban would have said, nah, I'm bringing in my own guys. I want my own guys. But he didn't. He listened to the people who were there and took their counsel and retained Kyle. And whatever Tom says, whichever way he wants to go with this and what are his thoughts, I think they should take that into serious consideration. And I can't say specifically that he's going to officially 100% endorse Brian Santiago, but what I know he did say at the press conference is Brian Santiago is my right-hand guy. He's my wingman.
Yep.
That's pretty strong endorsement. I took it as.
I'm with you. I thought the same thing, and he's given a lot to Brian Santiago, and it's been, a lot of build-up to this revenue-sharing era that's about to take off this fall. Brian Santiago already has a clear understanding of the direction that BYU wants to go with that. And BYU is always wanting to avoid risk. And you bring up a great point about Kyle Whittingham because, in that time, imagine, BYU tried to get, Kyle Whittingham as a defensive coordinator, when Gary Croton was the head coach. And it was a smart move by Utah to retain Kyle Whittingham because now, obviously, Utah's went on to have so much success, and I think they'll have probably a bounce-back year this season. Brian Santiago, I think, would do a really solid job in the AD role at BYU. He's been there for, 2 decades, just like Tom Holmoe. And I think he would bring a lot of energy to the position. He's competitive, and he's got strong connections to, a lot of influential people at BYU. And, you see him sitting courtside at basketball games, Gifford Nilsson, Travis Hansen, Ryan Smith. I mean, Danny Ainge, he's got a lot of connections in the hierarchy of BYU greats and notable people in this athletic department. So I think it would make a lot of sense. And but I think BYU should just take their time and turn over every stone because these sort of moves don't happen. I mean, Shane Reese, the president at BYU, it's the first time a BYU president has had to find an AD since Samuelson. And that's been, that covered an entire presidency. Kevin Worthen didn't have to hire an AD. So this is a big move. And Holmoe even laid it out yesterday that a lot is upcoming. And, when you're seeing reports yesterday that the Power Four conferences are considering hiring a CEO, and I mean, this sport could change drastically in the next 12 months. We don't know what direction it's going to be. And I think an underrated aspect to the next AD is positioning BYU for whatever the next phase of college football is.
And it's coming.
It is. And it's like the Big 12 is great, and it was a dream landing spot, and it worked out perfectly for BYU. But you've got to stay a couple steps ahead because when 2031 rolls around and that media rights deal is done, what's next for the Big 12? And BYU's got to be in a position to maintain access to whatever the championship tier of college football is.
They have to. They have to. Yeah, it's imperative. And they want to. And, their NIL thing there, we'll switch a little bit and move on. We had on Rondo Philberg, and I asked him about what did you think when you saw that quote in the ESPN story, "You're not going to outbid us." My wife had to come and pick me up off the floor when I read that quote. I mean, I get that they got to do it, but to be that brazen and bold, and Rondo said it himself. And I was talking about that with you.
Yeah.
That comment, that was wow. You're not supposed to say it, and not only did that what's that name? What's his name? Lillenquist?
Yeah. Lillianquist, yeah.
Lillianquist. And not only did he say it, he said it in the most bodacious manner possible.
We're not going to get outbid.
Put your checkbooks away. You ain't outbidding us, suckers.
Hands down, we win.
Yeah. Whatever you got, we're going higher. So back the bleep off. Wow.
Shocking.
It really was. For BYU, which is like you used to just thought it was a badge of honor to have Lavelle Edwards be in the bottom half of the whack in terms of pay. We had, towards the end of his life, we were doing a golf tournament. I think it was Haloti Nada had a golf tournament. He's a local guy, obviously played at Oregon. And we're at a Thanksgiving point, DJ and I, and Coach Edwards comes over, and we were joking about that coach's calling thing that he would do after the games, which, get out of town. Nobody would think about doing that now, right? And he looked at us, and he smiled, and he says, "Well, I had to do it. They're paying me $75 a show." And we laughed. He laughed. It was all funny. It's like, well, yeah, they don't pay anything. And so $75, sure. And now we're not being outbid. Man, how do you think that was received? I think if I'm a fan, I'm thinking sweet. But I'm wondering among the leadership, did they get a little queasy about that?
No question. I mean, because BYU, that was a shocking quote. And because BYU has never operated, they've always done more with less, but they've always had more than they put off. And, BYU was always trying to run in the black and they never go into debt. And to have that sort of comment is just shocking. And yes, that was a shocking comment for BYU and its approach. And it ties into last summer, when CBS Sports, they polled anonymous college basketball coaches and who's got the biggest NIL war chest. And college basketball coaches believed that BYU was in the top 3. I mean, this is just, night and day stuff from where BYU sports has lived. But I think a lot of it circles back to Tom Holmoe and, Brian Santiago, too, where, they're not going to be public and say, we've got all these resources and this boosters, but they want to have BYU be at the highest levels of college athletics. That's always been their pursuit. Years ago when people would say, I don't know if BYU sports are going to survive. It's going to be like BYU Idaho. It's going to be the new Ricks. Yeah. That was never the case. I mean, there's a lot of competitive people in BYU athletics. And, maybe there were some administrators back in the day who did have that. But from the president now, the advancement VP, whoever the next AD is, I mean, they want to win at the highest levels. And now that they understand, and maybe the brethren also understand that, hey, this money thing is okay. It's all above board. Let's go chase this thing, because the exposure that they got from football this past year, and honestly, the exposure from getting a commitment and signing from AJ DeBansa, I mean, that's stuff they haven't received in years. I mean, despite all the successes that Holmoe experienced with the athletic department, there were not many national showcase moments for football during independence. They just were out of sight, out of mind in November.
Yeah, for sure.
This past year in the Big 12, I mean, even Santiago told me it's been a game changer for BYU being in the Big 12. And so I think there's still this competitive desire to throw more money at this thing and take it to higher levels than ever before.
Yeah, I think so. And I think another reason to tie it back into Brian is I think that whoever they bring in and give the job to, that person needs to negotiate and navigate the so-called BYU way.
Yeah.
You got to know how to play it. And it's different there than it is at other places. And there's a lot of people who have influence and can exert that influence as they so choose. So you got to placate them. You got to make sure that they're okay with the decisions that you're making. And that's where I think it's important to have, where it really plays into Brian, or if they should go to Chad, that they are on the inside and they know how to play the so-called game.
And I think within that, too, is that they know how to play the game and also raise funds and inspire people to throw money at it within the game. And I think that's also got to be a key piece. You got to get someone that's inspiring people to want to continue to put more money. And hopefully revenue sharing creates an aspect where the fans are not feeling as drained and feeling like they got to commit more and more money, because I do feel like there's this difference between the millionaire, billionaire donors and the middle-class fan. There's still got to be a place for them, and still finding that balance to give them opportunities to feel involved, because the money is right in front of fans more than ever. So finding that balance and still giving those opportunities to that middle-class fan to still get them inspired to donate, that's going to be an opportunity, a challenge that for the next AD. And I think both those guys have done a pretty good job of that in the past.
Well, I can tell you, I'm worried a little bit about BYU sports, to the point where when we were down in Tempe in November, after that win, I slipped the AD $20 as an ASU guy. Yeah. On all that chaos and melee out in the field, I gave him I slipped. I said, here.
I like the intensity.
Put this to good use, man.
Yormark needed to line that game up again in Provo this year.
I'm surprised they did. And I said, if we could keep Sam Levitt, I'm doing my part. Here's 20 from me.
Hey, Graham.
So,
hey.
Get the GoFundMe started.
Yeah. I'm doing my part, people. You got to do your part. Now, you as men, all of you men listeners, you better do your part, and you better do it right now. You better do it today, because tomorrow is Valentine's Day. And good news for you, we got the owner of J. Brooks Jewelers, John. He's in studio. He can tell you about custom design jewelry and how it works. He can tell you the difference between custom and stock. He can tell you about artisans. That's a fancy word. I don't even know what it means, but it's right here on my sheet, so I'm going to talk about it. And Jay, you tell us about it, JB.
Well, one of the things that makes everybody can draw a picture of a ring or show you out of a catalog, but to be able to, and even design it in a CAD system where they draw the mounting, but once the casting is done, to be able to finish that by hand and to make it look as beautiful as anything really that's being sold in America, that's what we have at J. Brooks. We have two of the finest artisans or jewelers or goldsmiths, depending on the term you want to use, who are able to take from the very simplest to the most complicated pieces where even consumers sometimes are like, I can't believe you made this right here in Utah. So if you want to do something that's really classic, we obviously do that. But if you want to do something that's one of a kind and make something that's as complicated as possibly can be done, it's nice to know that the artisans are right here in town, and they're young guys. They're 35 and 40. So one of the things that makes that important is their eyesight is still really crisp and sharp. All these rings that we're describing under custom made today are all made under microscopes. And sometimes some of these rings will have 200 to 300 small diamonds, which means they have 800 to 1,000 prongs. And how in the world do they make that all balance and look perfect? And one of the secrets of that is all done under microscopes at 10 to 30 power. And I tell sometimes people, the easy way to imagine is your mind, what does that mean? Well, if diamonds aren't all level, when they get dirty, then that shows up. So imagine building a brick sidewalk and how hard it is to get those bricks all level. And those stones are 4 inches by 10 inches. We're doing things that are 1 to 2 millimeters, and everything is perfect. And that's the level of artisanship that we have. And so when people come in, they are just so pleased, can't believe it's all done right here in town. So come by, take a look. You hold it in your hand. You'll be able to feel the difference and see the difference in a store where we have things where a group of ladies have selected, curated a wonderful selection, and really make it where the statement is true, where women know where women want. J. Brooks Jewelers and Murray and Lehigh.
There you go. And a go-in Valentine's as an added incentive. J. Brooks will throw in chocolates and flowers for that special someone. You guys, you cannot screw this one up. Check it out on their website, jbrooksjewelers.com. Thank you, JB. He'll be with us here in about 20 minutes. And take advantage of it. Listen up to what he's got to say right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Mitch Harper, BYU insider for KSL Sports, joining us. BYU football certainly shocked the monkey this past season doing what they did. You know, I thought if everything had come together, 7, not counting a bowl because you didn't know who they were going to play. But I thought if they went 7-5, boy, that would be a great season. I think Tom Holmoe basically said that himself.
I thought that was an underrated tidbit.
Yeah.
You know, because I talked to him at the Big 12 spring meetings in May, last May in Texas, and he told me, he's like, Mitch, this is going to be a good team. Because at that time I thought, if they get to 6, I mean, that's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, did he kind of foreshadow this 11 wins? But he cleared that up yesterday. He's like, I didn't see that coming.
Right. I don't think any of us did. It's awesome that it happened.
Yeah.
Way to go. I wish him success this year, too. It's always fun to be talking about winners behind the mic than it is teams that don't win. So you look at the team, combine it with guys they got coming back and the recruiting. Now, the thing about BYU's recruiting is, you know, a lot of them will see you in 2. So what does that mean? And I know, who's the kid, Madsen, out of Northern California or the Central Valley? He's supposed to be all that, but he's not going to take the field until 27.
Yeah.
So you never know what to think with their recruiting because who's going, who's coming. And then if they stay, you know, they made a big deal out of some kid out of East Valley down in the Phoenix area, tight end, and it never really happened. And now he's gone. And then you get some other kids that maybe don't get the hype, and they play well. Mm-hmm. And that's across the board in any program. So what is your assessment of the incoming talent combined with the returning talent?
Returning talent is some of the best talent that Kalani's, you know, retention that they've assembled since he's been the head coach. And it's reason why I think people can look at BYU as a potential Big 12 title contender next year. They retained, they brought back a lot, you know, LJ Martin, Jake Retzloff, Isaiah Glasker comes back at linebacker. Retaining that linebacker unit was huge. Jack Kelly, he said that it was a 50-50 decision between leaving for the NFL or coming back. He decides to come back. And so the retention was a good piece. The newcomers, not much in the freshman side of things are going to come in and impact. They've got an offensive lineman in Andrew Williams, 6'8", 285. Because of the need to identify depth at the offensive tackle spot, that can be an area where you look at maybe a freshman maybe gets in the two deep. But aside from him and maybe Kendall Wall from Mountain Ridge High School, I think is going to be a really good player. They're going to slide him from edge to defensive tackle, again, an area of need. There's not many freshmen that I look at and say they're going to be two deep guys this year. The transfers, though, all of them, I think they're going to be expected to have an impact and be right away, step in and contribute. And I think that's where those are really noteworthy additions. Carson Ryan at tight end, he comes in from Utah. He's going to be looked upon to be an every down tight end, can do it whether it's blocking, receiving. BYU's got to get the tight ends going as far as in the passing game for BYU. So he's going to be one. And then, of course, Keanu Tanavasa, who, Jay Hill did not hold back on signing day saying he might be the best defensive tackle, defensive lineman in the country. And you know what? I kind of like that take. Kalani tends to be a little bit hesitant to give anyone praise. These guys are making money now. They're making a lot of money. There's a lot invested in Keanu Tanavasa. Put out the expectation that you're paying a premium to get that guy to be one of the best, not only in the Big 12, but maybe in the country. Live up to it. I think Keanu Tanavasa is taking on that challenge, and he's going to be a leader of BYU's defense. His addition alone changes the whole outlook of BYU, what they can be on the defensive line and defensively. Number one defense in the Big 12 a season ago. He gives them reason to believe that maybe they could do it again.
And then how about some guys that weren't household names but were on the team and their time's coming? Because you got to have that too. You got to bring along guys that – maybe they don't get a whole lot of run early, but by the time they've been in the program a year, two, they're ready to make that next step. That's an important aspect. Every program, I don't care who you are, Alabama, whomever, you got to develop guys.
So BYU loses Jacob Robinson. He was a do-it-all cornerback, nickelback, for BYU last season. A guy that I look at that's going to take a big step forward from his freshman season a year ago to his sophomore campaign is Jonathan Cabella, a kid out of Texas. He got quite a bit of snaps last year in a pretty loaded cornerback room. You go back and dive into some of the time he was on the field. They were in key stretches of games, particularly against Baylor, where they sealed off that win in Waco. Jonathan Cabella is going to be a really good player for BYU, and he could play that Eddie Hecker, Jacob Robinson role where he could do a lot of different things. And even talking to Jacob Robinson, a lot of excitement about Jonathan Cabella, maybe taking over that spot next year. So he's a name to watch. And staying in the secondary too, BYU's got a pretty busy safety unit. They bring back Tanner Wall, they bring back Raider Damouni, Falatau Satuwala, and Tommy Parasis. Those are kind of your top four. But a wild card in the mix is Matthias Leach, really good athlete, redshirted this past year. Underrated recruit, but the coaching staff really likes his potential, and he's like 6'3". He'd be a huge, big-bodied safety on the back end. He maybe could slide to corner if needed because that's an area of need. But Matthias Leach is another player in the secondary that coaches are really high on, and they got a big future for him. And then some of the offensive linemen. There's guys like Jake Griffin who signed years ago, to your point about these guys get sent off on missions, and then you don't hear from them for years. Jake Griffin's from Mesa, Arizona. He signed when Jeff Grimes was the offensive coordinator. That's how long it's been. But his time might be coming to contend for some offensive tackles time along BYU's offensive line. So those are three players that are maybe knocking on the door, young guys that could maybe their time is coming here in the near future.
Is Swanson, the tight end, the most or only prominent kid leaving on a mission? Am I missing? Who am I missing?
Yeah. He's the one from last year's team that actually got time. He's the only one. Everyone else is pretty much sign and send. So he's a little bit of a throwback where he's going when, after a year of playing. We used to see that all the time from BYU. Everyone else is pretty much coming from the high school ranks and then going directly on a mission.
And then what are they going to do at running back? Obviously, LJ's the guy. Ropati's done, right?
He could be back, potentially, and it could be a deal with Potentially the JUCO avenue, they're still looking into that. But also he falls under the umbrella of Logan Latui, the defensive end who's coming back for a year. Logan Latui qualified for a medical red shirt. Hinckley Ropati's had multiple seasons where he's had injuries. They're exploring maybe a medical red shirt for him. And he's been around the team facility working out. So that could be possible for Hinckley Ropati to have a year, which is crazy to think because he joined the team in 2020 as a JUCO transfer. It's 2025, and there still maybe could be eligibility there. So that Ropati, there's a chance there that he could be back.
What else do they have at that position?
So then you've got, a player in Sione Moa, and he's another guy that maybe his time is coming. Freshman last year had a big performance against Kansas State, also broke off some big runs in that bowl game against Colorado.
Yeah.
He's probably going to be that number 2 behind LJ Martin. And they're really excited about the potential of Sione Moa. You've also got Enoch Nawahine. He had some games where he started last year, was serviceable, former Utah State running back. You've also got Pokai Honga, who coaches last year, compared to, maybe the next Reno Mahe with his versatility. Reno, when he was coming out of Brighton High School, he was a running back, wide receiver type. That's Pokai Honga. And then also Javesa Damuni, another local kid out of Ridgeline High School, redshirted last season. He's also in the mix at running back. And then they bring in a freshman from Las Vegas, Kel Breslin, and he was a 3-star prospect in Vegas. He comes in and will contend for time as well at the freshman spot or running back spot. But it's Martin, it's Moa, and then if you have Ropati possibly coming back, that'd be your top 3.
Mitch Harper, KSL Sports BYU Insider, joining us here until the top of the hour. Your take on who's behind the Jewish quarterback, and can we get done with that story now?
I think so.
I'm over it.
I think so. Just let's see him take another step forward.
It was
now.
a novelty last season, but okay. Now I want to hear about when I hear about Jake Retzlaff. I want to hear about because he's completing 70% of his passes and throwing for 300 yards. Not that he's Jewish. That's a nice story. But I want to hear more about his playing ability, and he's going to be the starter. We had A-Rod on here recently, and he's talking about he must have his completion percentage increased, and I think people are maybe to the point where a little bit overhyped, but I think they're pointing to Sarkisian and the jump he made from junior to senior year. We saw that in that second year. What were they, 14-1 with the Cotton Bowl win? And obviously he had made a significant jump. And Retzlaff, good, but 2 interceptions really stick out. And I think we can all remember them, the one against Kansas State and then the overthrow against ASU when it looked like they were going in to win the game. And but it didn't happen. He also made some good plays too. I expect him to improve. Round out the quarterback depth chart as you see it now.
I would say that number 2 is probably McKay Hillstead, the transfer from Utah State, redshirted last year. I would put him as maybe a slight early favorite in front of Trayson Bourget, a transfer from Western Michigan. But BYU only has 3 quarterbacks entering spring. And, they pursued a TCU quarterback a little bit who ended up at Oklahoma State in the portal. But aside from him, there wasn't much in the portal that BYU looked at the quarterback position. And, I think in this 105-man roster era, you'd kind of think maybe 4 quarterbacks would be the spot for BYU to have as far as on the roster. Now, they do have a walk-on commitment. I don't even know if you call it a walk-on anymore in this 105 era, but a kid from Bountiful High School who committed this past signing day. He could potentially join and be that 4th quarterback, but there's not much after Jake Retzlaff at that QB spot. But what is promising is that Hillstead and Bourget have started games at the FBS level, and Hillstead's got a pretty good arm. You saw in fall camp last year that clearly the playbook, it was a whirlwind for him, and he was learning that. But you did see arm strength, quite a bit of that. I mean, the deep passes that BYU and Aaron Roderick love in this offense, Hillstead gives you that. Granted, it was third-team offense, third-team defense, basically his peers on the field at that time, but he was standing out. I mean, there were mistakes, but the arm talent's there. Bourget, I think, is more of a, the cliche game manager type, but pretty solid quarterback. I think he's made a lot of improvements during his time at BYU, but I'd say Hillstead is probably the guy that maybe gives you the hope that he could be a QB1 in 2026, because that's what they need to figure out. Even if Retzlaff does go down, you need to have someone ready for 2025, but also who's the next big thing in 2026? So I don't know if that's in the building right now. So that's a challenge for BYU, and spring will be important to, really identifying that and rounding out that quarterback depth chart.
All right. We got one more segment with Mitch. NCAA tournament for the big money Cougars. We'll get to that next. Stay with us. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The John Watson Northern Utah High School Players of the Week Award honors the best high school boys and girls basketball players in Northern Utah each week during the prep season. Our winners are Malika Satuwala. I got the Satuwala. I'm down on that. Just wasn't sure on that. From Bountiful High, and Dresden Jensen from Viewmont High School. Satuwala had 22 points and a whole bunch of assists in a 67-28 rout of Bonneville before tallying 16 points in a 42-35 win at Clearfield. Jensen scored 17 points in a 56-53 win over Woods Cross before tallying 21 points in a 73-61 win over Northridge. See why new and used car buyers give John Watson Chevrolet more 5-star reviews than any other Chevy dealer in Utah. John Watson Chevrolet, your 5-star Chevy dealer. All right, Mitch Harper, KSL Sports Insider for BYU. Basketball, huge win over West Virginia. Both teams needed that, and the Cougs got it, man. For once, they executed down the stretch and played well and made the plays that they needed to make. Now, they have got a killer schedule coming up. Kansas State on Saturday. Well, let's see, Kansas State is only the hottest team in the conference right now, playing as well as anybody. They're knocking off big dogs left and right if you consider Arizona and Kansas a big dog, which I do. So they're playing great. This is awesome, the Big 12. I mean, so much on the line, great competition. You don't have to sit around and wait every 2 or 3 weeks for Gonzaga and St. Mary's. It's almost like every game. But the big question is, have they found something? Are they where they want to be right now?
I don't think they're where they want to be right now, but I do believe that they're trending towards putting together their best basketball in March. And I think that's reason for excitement with this team because, I mean, PK, you've seen so many BYU basketball teams. They peak in December, January, and then they just burn out in the postseason and they don't do anything. And I feel like this group is still has not hit their peak, and they could still have the best version of themselves maybe in a tournament. And that's ultimately where it all comes down to. BYU's had so much success over the years in regular season games, and they've had some breakthroughs against the Gonzagas of the world, but do something when a bracket's laid out. And I think that's kind of been the mindset for Kevin Young, is that he understood that there was going to be some growing pains, especially when you had a non-conference with not many challenges. And, this group, they had a really good performance at West Virginia, and they got unlikely performances from bench players like Trey Stewart giving you 8 points. Mihailo Boskovic, a seldomly used center in Big 12 play, he comes off the bench and hits 6 points and gets the game sealing and one opportunity. So, Kevin Young has no problem going, 11 players still this deep in the season, which is kind of crazy. You don't see that very often, but they'll find answers on any given night, and they'll still be a tough out at the Marriott Center. So huge weekend coming up. That K-State game. K-State's got 5 consecutive wins or 6 consecutive wins, 4 consecutive quad 1 victories. That's going to be a big one for BYU. If they can protect home court there, then you've got a string of quad 1 opportunities with Kansas, Arizona, and ASU. That if you can get 2 of those, I think you're on the right side of the bubble and maybe trending up to being in that 8-9 threshold in the bracket.
What record, conference-wise, do you think gets them in?
11-9, because you've got to factor in the no Sunday aspect. You got to drop them a seed line. Like right now, if the projections today are, second to last team in, I say you knock them down 1 line, and that means you're out, because we've seen that so many times over the years. I mean, last year, you're a 5 seed in the brackets, but you end up with a 6 because of that no Sunday play. So that's a factor here. And they've got to get to a winning record, because their non-conference strength of schedule, it's not good. It's in the bottom 40 in many strength of schedule metrics. That non-conference, there's nothing there. And it's all within Big 12 play that the committee is going to look at when it comes to BYU. The predictive ratings love BYU. But they need a winning record in Big 12 play to feel comfortable and confident that they're going to be in that field of 68.
I think going forward, we're going to see that non-conference get better.
No question.
Especially with the big shot coming in.
And Kevin Young, I think he, at stretches, I think he got a little bit bored with some of those non-conference games. He goes from every night in the NBA to then, hey, get fired up for Florida A&M. I mean, come on. Like, no. He's coming here to play some big-time teams, and that is going to ramp up definitely with the bands that come in next year. They've already got the Villanova game, the Diamond Head Classic in Hawaii for Thanksgiving. Right. They're going to play a lot of good games next year.
So Texas A&M, but not Florida A&M.
Yes, that's right.
I'm with you. Well, Mitch, the hour went by quick, as it normally does. Thanks for coming in.
You bet, PK.
All right, we'll have your rival, Steve Bartle, our Utah Utes insider for KSL Sports. Right now, we've got somebody who's going to make you look good, and he is our guy, John Brooks from J. Brooks Jewelers. So much is at stake in Valentine's Day. This could be the decider between a happy life and a miserable life.
I think there's some truth there, and I always tell the guys, whatever you do, don't screw this holiday up. This is an important holiday to the women. They want to make sure that you remember that they're your sweetheart, and so we try to make you look good, and the way that we do that is by having a wonderful selection and a wide variety of price ranges. So whether you want to spend a few $100s, a few thousand, or a few $100,000, we have all those kind of things in place that we can help you with all those things. And we make it easy. So when you come in, we have a great staff of ladies who will help you and educate you. Also, and not only educate you in what the quality of the jewelry is, but also educate you in what the style of the day is. So you're buying things that are fashion forward and help to fit your sweetheart style. And whether she's a fashion girl and wants to be on the edge, or whether she's kind of a conservative girl and wants to be something simple, we have things in every price range and in every metal: yellow gold, white gold, sterling silver, and a wonderful selection of styles that'll just fit her and whether she's, again, super active or she wants something where she can go out on the town. So I think you'd be very pleased. And with Valentine's, we make it easy in one-step shopping, where we have chocolate and candy ready for you, flowers that are there, all part of free gifts with purchase, and just to make you look good. So I think if you'll take a look at our website, you'll kind of get a flavor of who we are and what we're about. Again, remember, we're a family business owned locally, operated right here in Salt Lake City. And everything that we do manufacturing-wise is done right here in Utah as well. So we're really a family-based company, a Utah company, founded here in 1997 and here for the long haul.
There it is. You got locations in Murray and Lehigh, and the website is jbrooksjewelers.com. That's the initial J, jbrooksjewelers.com. We'll see you in about 20 minutes when you can lighten our guys once more. Thank you, John.
Thank you, PK.
All right, coming up next, we'll do what we did with BYU, only turn it over to Utah. Stay with us, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, I've had it with them Cougars. Now we're talking Utes. Yeah. We got my Ute man, Steve Bartle, Utah Utes insider for KSLSports.com. I've known him for a number of years, and he's been with us almost a year now, doing a fine job and everything Utah, that's for sure. And this, starting it off with Utah football, wow. for years, Utah is like, it's been like the oil rigs, man. They're just going up and down and doing what they're supposed to do and pumping out the oil, and machine rolls on, right? And all of a sudden now, to our surprise, things got haywire, and they made a bunch of changes, which, man, they made changes. Kyle obviously has made a number of changes offensively to the coordinator position, but this year, I think in terms of intrigue and unknown and mystery, I don't know that I've had a season that I have this much, all sorts of stuff. Combined with the word excitement, too, because I'm excited to see what they can do. What is your impression as far as them being able to, I think they'll have a bounce back, but just how everything is going to come together, particularly and obviously from the offensive standpoint?
Yeah, that's the big question, PK. When you make a change at the offensive coordinator position, when you almost completely overhaul your quarterback room.
Right. Yeah.
There are 5 new faces in that room.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And, it's going to be a pretty big change in terms of the offense and the scheme, and, going from Andy Ludwig's pro style to Jason Beck, who is a creative mind. I've been watching a lot of film of the New Mexico offense and getting a feel for what he likes to do, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
I saw them play 4 or 5 times last year, and I was always entertained.
Yeah, always entertained. And I think, so bringing in Jason Beck and bringing in Devin Dampier, where there is this wholesale change almost on the offensive side of the ball, there are 3 big things that I think you can build on this offseason, right? So the relationship between Jason Beck and Devin Dampier, right?
That's huge.
It's gigantic in making this sort of transition from, a legend like Cam Rising at Utah with what he did and what he accomplished, and now bringing in a new quarterback with a year of 2 years of experience, but a year under Jason Beck and what he did there. The offensive line coming back intact. And what that's going to mean for the rest of the offense, right? Jason Beck talked about this in that offseason kickoff press conference, that the most important position is quarterback, and the next most important is the offensive line. And so you bring back all 5 starters, you bring back the depth that you have behind them, you feel good about that group taking another step forward next year. And then I think, too, with Jason Beck, last year Utah wanted to be a little bit more pass-centric with Cam Rising. They built around him. Now you can get back to what you do best, and that's running the ball and making that the focal point of the offense yet again. Even though, last year it turned out to be that way, this year you're going to have all offseason to gear up for that.
It's going to be funny. You might have Dampier teaching the guys the offense himself, because I would assume that he knows it like the back of his hand, because those two are a tag team. And that's an interesting situation. That's the new version of college football, where you bring in the coordinator and then he brings his quarterback and his quarterback is immediately eligible. That's what gives me hope that the offense literally can hit the ground running.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was the big priority for Utah, was finding, I shouldn't say the big priority, but it was a hope and a focus in their offensive coordinator search, right? It started that whole process. There was a lot of talk about Ben Arbuckle from Washington State.
Right.
Well, who was the quarterback there? It was John Mateer, who was one of the top quarterback prospects in the transfer portal market. Those two end up a package deal at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You end up with Jason Beck and Devin Dampier. Similar, dynamic there in terms of the dual threat ability of Devin Dampier, and that relationship, again, is just going to be so important, so vital for Utah as they make this transition in a new offense, because, Devin Dampier is going to be able to, hold guys accountable in terms of how they're executing and raise the standard, more so than just having a different quarterback learning the offense for the first time.
You speak of that offensive line returning. What round does Fano go in?
Boy,
because he's playing in the NFL.
He is going to be an NFL tackle for quite some time. He's got a great opportunity to go round 1 with what he has, with the step that he made from year 1 to year 2. He was a freshman All-American, but he made a huge leap going into year 2 and made the biggest gains where he was weakest in year 1. He became an elite run blocker. And that was kind of the concern with him was, did he have the frame? Did he have the tenacity to do it? He was always so athletic and technically sound in pass pro, but he took that step as a run blocker, and I think he's really put himself on the map. Pro Football Focus had
all
him,
those stats,
as one of the top offensive tackles, and so he'll be in the mix for day 1 draft talk all offseason.
I would think.
And two, PK, just to mention Caleb Lomu, another offensive tackle, is going to, similar trajectory as Spencer Fano, freshman All-American this past year. Big expectations for him going into year 2. So not only do you have Spencer Fano, that you hope makes that leap, but Caleb Lomu too at left tackle performed really well in his first year as a starter on the blind side. You hope that he can make a similar leap that Fano did from year 1 to year 2 as well.
Yeah. Dampier, he's a guy who can beat you many different ways, right? He's very electric.
Yeah.
The very first game, I watched him because of Bronco. I covered him when I worked for a newspaper years ago. I think all of us, it's going to be fun to see what he does at Utah State because now he's in our backyard and we can watch him closer. Mm-hmm. But I can remember very first game against Arizona. And Arizona came in with a lot of hype. They won the ball game, scored a ton of points, and we knew that they were going to be able to throw the ball with their quarterback and receiver, and that was fun. But watching Dampier just run around almost like he was playing in air against that defense, the U of A could do nothing to contain him. And one of the things that I think it's overrated, but Utah is scarred because of injuries at quarterbacks, obviously. What do you see behind him?
So you have Dampier as the starter, and you feel good about that, right? And the focus is going to be protecting him, keeping him upright, as always. It's going to be interesting behind him, right? Because Utah does bring back Isaac Wilson, who it didn't go as planned this past season in 2024 for him. The expectation coming into the year was it was going to be a redshirt season of sorts, right? That he was going to get mop-up duty throughout the year and that sort of stuff, and he'd be able to redshirt. But he was forced into action, and it didn't go as planned, didn't go as anybody hoped for him. But still, he played a lot of ball, gained a lot of experience, learned a lot of important lessons. And so to get him back with that experience, I think is big. But then you've brought back Nate Johnson, former quarterback here a couple years ago, dynamic athlete, similar to Devin Dampier. Maybe not the same passer, but certainly in terms of the athletic qualities, you like that. You like that there. And then they also brought in another quarterback transfer backup from Oklahoma, who Jason Beck actually recruited while he was at Syracuse, Brendan Zerberg. And so you bring him in, and those three are going to be the primary focus of that backup quarterback battle. And I think the hope is, that Zerberg, Nate Johnson can handle that backup spot and allow Isaac Wilson to redshirt. I think that would be ideal with Devin Dampier having 2 years left. Isaac Wilson still is a talent. He's got the arm talent. It's just he's got to catch up in terms of his mental processing, his understanding of what he's seeing on the other side of the ball, and that sort of stuff. And that just comes with time. Yeah. That just comes with reps. And so, that's what they have. And then they brought in a couple freshmen that, we'll see what they have, see what they can bring to the table. But it's going to be those three primarily. And I think the hope is that it can be Zerberg and Nate that
So Nate will be strictly quarterback?
No, he's going to be kind of a unique weapon.
Man, he can fly.
And they're going to use it. I think that's going to be a focus under Jason Beck, is using him more as that kind of unique chess piece, right? To split him out wide as a wide receiver, but he's still going to be, classified as a quarterback. But I do think they'll use him in some pretty unique ways.
And then that running back position, they don't return anybody, but they get the Washington State kid who is somebody.
Yes, he is. Yeah, 750 yards as a freshman, at Washington State.
In a run offense or a pass offense.
Pass offense. And it was not, it was pass offense, and the offensive line, blocked like it too, right? He did not run behind a great offensive line. Watching film on him, man, I've fallen in love with we talk so much about running backs having instincts, right? I think it's more reactionary skills, right? How quickly can you read and react to what's happening in front of you? And that's where Wayshawn Parker really shines for me in terms of his ability to see the line of scrimmage, what's happening, and make decisions off of that. He's, a no-nonsense runner. He's not going to chop his steps. He's not going to waste any sort of movement. He's a one cut back and get upfield as quickly as he can. I think that's going to work really well with Dampier in this option offense. Him coming here with Mark Atuaya, following him from Washington State.
That's also big.
That's big too, right? Similar to Dampier following Beck, having that relationship with that coach is just going to, again, similarly allow him to hit the ground running.
Steve Bartle, our Utah Utes insider for KSL Sports, joining us. This offense has an opportunity to look like nothing that we've really seen at Utah
in quite some time.
Yeah, I can't even recall when. I'm trying to run through. Nothing comes to mind. So the question then becomes, how much does the head coach allow it?
Yeah, I think that is something that everybody is asking, right? How much is Jason Beck going to be able to how much freedom is he going to have in calling his offense and what he truly wants? And I think, if you're Kyle Whittingham, we've seen him become a little bit more, what's the word? He's adapted with the times. He still, wants things executed in certain ways. He still wants, we see him revert to the run game, especially this past season. And I think there was a reason for that. And I think for Beck, coming here, you want to come here knowing that you're going to have the autonomy to run your offense because it's your baby.
And the kid you brought with him.
Right. And to have that, I think
you shackle him, it won't work.
Right. And I think having Dampier is going to allow for Beck to have more freedom.
You'd think, yeah.
I think.
That's why I'm excited.
But with Witt, you don't know until you know, right? Until we get into these games and you see how it plays out.
We got 20 years here.
Right. And he's proven he knows how to win games and that sort of thing. But I do think Beck with this offense, it's so fun to watch that I truly hope that Witt is completely hands-off.
Let it go.
Yeah, let it be, man.
I mean, in a sense, his philosophy was to have a good offensive line, have good running backs, and have a good punter.
Yeah. Don't turn it over, and that was it. And I think he's evolved with the times, obviously, as the offense has become as we've gotten more into modern football and what it is today. Is the passing game has become more RPO centric and the focal point of offenses. I think Witt has learned to adapt with the times, to embrace more offense. He's talked about it over the years, but still, when times get tough, you see kind of the.
I've been working on him, man.
I know you
I've
have.
been working on him.
I know. I'm trying to pick up the torch, But I do think with this offense, again, just having that experience with Dampier, it's so big because that relationship between Beck and Dampier, that trust that they have, I think is going to allow Kyle to be a little bit more hands-off than he would be otherwise.
The way I look at it, this offense with these two has an opportunity to score way more points, and that's what you want. Get the ball in the end zone. That's any which way you get it. And I know people will say, "Oh, well, they did it at New Mexico," but I'm not really caught up in that stuff because to me, I've been saying this, you can have a so-called lower level, but that doesn't mean players are lower levels. And look at Scadaboo.
Yeah.
Was coming from lower? Yeah.
Coming from Sac State.
Right. Was he lower level? No.
Yeah.
He was all that.
Right.
He did it against Texas.
Everybody.
Yeah. So I don't get caught up on where they're coming from. I get caught up in how good they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care where you came from. I care now, what can you do? And in my mind, I expect this offense to be diversified, unlike anything we've seen. And I think it has the capability to, if you go baseball, to at least hit a triple.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think, too, right, it's so much that, you go back, you watch, you look at some of the numbers with Jason Beck, that offense. just the success rate was so different than what it was for Utah last year. It was Utah struggled mightily on the offense side of the ball last year.
It was pulling teeth, man.
It was like one of every 3 plays worked, right? And at New Mexico this past year, they had a success rate of almost 50% in terms of offense, and that's top 15 in the country,
right?
And so just having a quarterback that can pick up avoid the negative plays, which was an issue for Utah, create positive yardage, and just keep the offense moving down the field bit by bit, I think is something that'll help Utah in 2025.
Okay, we'll get more into Utah football with Steve Bartle, our Utah insider. He is with us to the top of the hour. Also with us to the top of the hour. Oh my gosh. Every time I see this guy, I just want to play romantic music because this guy, he just exudes romance. Okay, maybe not him personally, but the product as he has to offer. He's sexy in his own right, but his product is off the charts sexy, and he is John Brooks from J. Brooks Jewelers. It's Valentine's Day, boys, coming up, and so John is going to make you look smart and make you, even Steve Bartle, look sexy.
We're going to make Mr. Bartle look really good. That's exactly right. And that's what
I need it.
Well, that's what we do. Our job is to make men look good and to make women happy. And I think that we have a product that does that better than anything else that's out there. And we saw that Monday night. We had you'll never have heard of this, a Galentine's party. And we had 40 to 50 women at our store in Murray.
That sounds like my 21st birthday.
Exactly. Except we didn't pay any of them to come. And so we had a couple different things going on. But anyway, before we were done, we just went through and all the ladies looking and playing. And one of the gals came up to me who was a gymnast up at the U and said to me, "This is the best store I've ever been in. I have never had so much fun in my whole life to come in here and just to be able to try on all these beautiful things." So, men, I would suggest to you that tomorrow, if you haven't got anything planned and you're going out with your sweetheart, be proactive and just come by the store and stick your head in and just tell her, do you remember when you bought her ring and how excited she was? Come by the store and let her pick out something and look and find something. You give us a budget and we'll find something to work for you. Our stylists, all women, have great insight of what style and look. I think you'll be so pleased, and you will be amazed at the animation that will come to your wife's face and how happy and so shocked that she will be that you would bring her in again and let her pick something that she wants. And I think that would be, we were sat here talking that moments pass and something can change so quickly, and you don't want to miss this moment. So your sweetheart knows that she is the most important thing in your life, and you want to just get a little bobble that says, "Hey, I love you and you're the best."
They may not even say it, but Valentine's Day is an important day.
Oh, gosh.
To that gender.
And men will say, "Oh, that's made up." Can't you hear Kyle Whittingham say that? That's made up.
Drop
but
down
I'm
and give me
telling
10.
you, and the wife will say, "It may be made up, but it's my favorite holiday because it's just for me." So I think you're absolutely right. So jump online, check us out, jbrooksjewelers.com, and then you'll kind of see what we're doing. We're located really easily right off the freeway in Murray by Fashion Place, and again in Lehigh, just east of the outlet malls. Easy access in and out, and a great staff of ladies who really know, really a group of women who know what other women want and will make you look good. And flowers included at no charge with any purchase, chocolate in each bag, so you have something to give it. All in one-stop shop.
Very good. The website, jbrooksjewelers.com. Thank you, John. We'll talk to you one more time before the hour is over. Stay with us, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Now let's get this party started.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
This story is crazy about becoming an ultimate Aggie, which apparently is getting up on that bull naked. What bull is it? Is it the one that's by the Estes Center? Isn't that bull like bucking? I'm just wondering how 5 nude men could fit on that.
It's a big bull.
5 nude men could fit on that?
5 smaller men, probably could make that work. There you go. That's the size of the thing right there.
Okay, it's not bucking. You could probably fit upwards of 10 naked men on that. So in order for you to be the ultimate Aggie, you have to be naked?
Yes.
I did not know that this was a thing.
See, I would think if you were going to be an ultimate Aggie, that it needs to be solo.
Because these 5 were not solo.
And that's where a lot of guys up at Utah say, like, hey, let's maybe dial that down a little bit.
Easy. One ultimate Aggie at a time.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
9 o'clock Our Slacker Radio headlines are brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary, 801-899-7600, or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. Steve Bartle, Utah Utes insider for KSL Sports, joining us. We talked about the football team. You know, so much of it, and Kyle has been outspoken that he believes there'll come a time sooner rather than later where the top 25 will reflect the top 25 NIL payouts, I guess. Is go in that realm. And BYU's got a lot of run. I'm sure you saw that story, the ESPN dude on basketball last week where the booster says, "You will not outbid us." That was shocking from a BYU perspective. Kyle has been forthright in talking about the necessity of having it. I asked him at that media availability, did they lose Tanavasa and Calhoun? And I can remember we're in the press box over there in Boulder last year, and I look at you and I say, man, Calhoun has improved about as much as anybody I've ever seen improve in the course of a season. And he clearly looked like he's a player. And Tanavasa's always been a player. And I asked Kyle, how much did NIL factor in? And he basically said that was the reason. And that leads you to believe that, okay, what's going on? We'll question what's going on for Utah. What's your perspective of their NIL that they have available in their two main sports that most people pay attention to?
Yeah, I think for the most part with football, they've got the NIL to take care of, you know, their core guys, right? When we're talking about a Spencer Fano, a Smith Snowden, Lander Barton, you know, even Caleb Lomu was a guy that was getting pretty significant offers from other programs.
Right.
And you know, it's interesting talking about it because these guys don't enter the portal, but yet, you know, you talk to people around them and
you don't have to.
Yeah, and it's clear that these guys are getting
obviously
communication from programs, right?
No doubt about it.
And so, you know, Utah, they did lose Cam Calhoun and they lost Keanu Tanavasa. NIL was a big factor in each of those. You know, I think both, you know, got a nice bump in terms of the numbers that I've heard. And, you know, with Tanavasa in particular, I know that Utah tried to get back in that conversation with him, tried to make another run at him, close the number a little bit. But with that, you know, Utah is still in a good spot in terms of their NIL to hold on to the guys that they did. And I think that's the focus. You know, it's tough when you don't have the amount of funds that some of these other programs do, Texas, Florida, just have unlimited resources that can, you know, pony up for whoever and however many they want. You know, Utah has to be a little bit more deliberate, a little more careful with their spending and how they allocate it. And, you know, they focused on certain positions and certain players, and they, for the most part, held on to the guys that they wanted to.
Yeah, there's no question that they raid rosters.
Right.
When we were down in Vegas for conference media days, I was talking to an athletic director, and he was telling me that a big-time school came and stole their second baseman off their baseball team. And he said, the guy's not very good, but we needed him.
Yeah.
And that he's probably not going to even start, but the school wanted injury insurance.
Yep.
And so they paid him. They paid him more to go there and be a backup than we could pay him to be a starter. And there was nothing we could do about it.
Yep.
Yeah, he called him a punch and Judy hitter, which is not a compliment.
No, it doesn't sound like one.
No, but that's the reality of the world, and they just plucked him out, and then away you go. But as long as you can be competitive, the good thing for Utah in that perspective is that those two players I think are really, really good, and we all think they're really, really good, is that they're on the defensive side. Because if you're going to lose really good players, from Utah's perspective, I'd rather have it be on the defensive side because they're easier to replace.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? So, you know, you lose Calhoun, right? But Utah goes into the portal. They bring in three other cornerbacks, all with great size, length. You know, when you think of Utah cornerback, you think of the Sean Smiths and Keith McGills, you know, those bigger, longer cornerbacks. And that's what these three that they brought in from the portal this cycle all bring to the table. And one of them in particular, his name's Donovan Saunders. So when Utah landed Cam Calhoun last year, Donovan Saunders was a kid that they brought in as a priority in the same mix, in the same tier in terms of how they stacked up and who they wanted. Those two were on equal footing. And so, Donovan Saunders is a guy that they were really high on last year. He went to Texas A&M, and now he's at Utah. So they feel good in terms of what they brought in to replace him. That, Calhoun wasn't a known commodity, prior to Utah.
Yeah.
He became that, and I think Utah feels confident that they can do that.
Which is why Alabama wanted him.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. They stand a much better chance of plugging and playing on the defensive side. If you had that level of talent on the offensive side, I'd be a little nervous. Mm-hmm. Do you have any update on Singer?
It's interesting. So a few weeks ago, it sounded like things were there was some positive feedback in terms of his waiver. So there's two different things here with Dorian Singer going on. He's got his own individual waiver that he submitted to try and get that year back from his freshman year at Arizona, which was 2021. He was a walk-on at the time, and he ended up playing in 6 games late in the year. And I think the thought was that he was going to redshirt that year, and then he was forced into action. And then there's also the NCAA, the 5th-year thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of on hold until the House versus NCAA is finalized and all of that. So we don't know. That's sort of up in the air. As time goes on, I think there was a lot of optimism and confidence a few weeks ago, but the more time goes on, that worry and doubt starts to creep in. So I don't have a good update. I just know that they're not as optimistic as they were just a couple weeks ago.
Because he's got to try, if it doesn't work, to give the NFL a shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think they still do the NFL supplemental draft, right? With that. And I think, that could be a route that he takes if it doesn't work out in his favor.
Right, but you got Pro Day and all that stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff.
And that's coming up.
Yep.
Because I thought that was, under the circumstances, he had a remarkable season.
Yeah,
given the fact that the quarterbacks were all over the place.
Yeah.
He made some great plays.
I think he ended up
beat Travis Hunter
for a touchdown.
Yes.
Yeah, blew right by him.
Remember it well.
And then you look at some of his numbers, almost ended up with 700 yards.
Yeah.
Again, considering the offense and the struggles that they had, that's pretty remarkable. So he is, when you watch his film and just the way he runs routes, his ball skills and all that, he's a good talent.
Yeah. The guy I feel probably the most bad, if that's a phrase, is Keithy.
Absolutely. Tough.
He waited, came back, and then it happens again.
And it's tough, because he was having a great year too. Productive, scoring touchdowns.
He's a player, yeah.
And to go down, in that game, just it sucks because I think he had 2 touchdowns to that point, and then he got injured, right? And so it sucks. It was a pretty significant injury, and he can't go through the draft process like he would have had he not gotten injured, obviously. But I think what you're starting to see is some of these draft analysts, his name starting to pop up, and you hope that he's done enough with what he's done over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
That there's enough body of work to give him an opportunity at the next level.
He was ahead of Dalton and Kincaid on the depth chart.
Oh yeah.
As far as talent, that's all you need to know.
If he doesn't get hurt that season, Dalton Kincaid doesn't have the year that he does.
I don't think so.
Because Keithy is having that year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with Rising being healthy most of the season,
right?
Missed 1 game, Washington State, and then got hurt in the second half of the Rose Bowl. So for sure on that, and then maybe he goes to the NFL at that point. You never know. Have you heard anything what Cam's doing?
It's been interesting with him. It's been radio silent. It was reported by Matt Zenitz of 24/7 Sports that he intended to enter the portal. That was December, January. The last update that I got was that there was a request for his pro day equipment to be sent to Utah. So I'm of the belief that he's going to go through the draft process and just move on to the next phase of his career and try to make it as a scout team guy in the NFL.
Yeah, see what happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
See what happens
then,
there.
Maybe he can go into coaching and all. You never know.
And that's too.
That's Kellen Moore's route.
Right. That is something that I think Cam would be great at because that was his strength as a player, was his mind. Right.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Everybody talks about his athleticism, but his ability to identify pre-snap and understand how to get his offense into optimal situations. Just his understanding of the offense and all of that, I think, would really translate well to him taking on a role as a coach.
Yeah, because he was no one's mistake-free, but it seemed like he knew where he needed to go.
Yep.
And how to get it there.
You know, the two most efficient, explosive offenses at Utah were those 2021, 2022 seasons with Cam at the helm.
Right.
And that's not coincidence. That was Cam maximizing their opportunities and cleaning out, the mistakes and all of that.
All right, stay with us. We'll wrap up the show next with Steve Bartle, our Utah Utes insider for KSL Sports, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And it's all over almost here.
Don't go nowhere.
Steve Bartle, our Utah Utes insider for KSL Sports, joining us. Feedback. We get a lot of feedback, and Utah basketball is not where it wants to be. Back when you were running around in diapers, I was covering the Utes in the 90s. And they were awesome, right?
They were.
That was my job for the newspaper, my primary assignment, and it was a lot of fun. Now, Huntsman Center, most of the games were Thursday, Saturday back then, and it was packed. It was a place to be.
I've got vintage Final Four T-shirts.
Yeah,
sweet. I don't dare, pull them out because they might crumble. But
that Final Four that whole week, that was as fun as I've ever had in this business.
Oh, I bet
that was just a blast.
Yeah, that would be a dream.
In San Antonio. It was so much fun. Had a plane reservation for Sunday morning because I thought they were going to lose to North Carolina. And the Tribune said, you got to come home when they lose. And, okay, so I made it for Sunday morning, figuring, Vince Carter, Antoine Jameson.
Yeah, that whole squad.
And so they won, obviously.
Yep.
And then I did not have a plane reservation. Everything was full on the following Tuesday. So I had to bum a ride to Austin and go standby. And it worked.
Hey.
And I got to Phoenix. Then I had to go standby there. And, the closer you get to your destination, like for Southwest, they end up having a ton of flights. Mm-hmm. So once I got to Phoenix, and I remember it was opening day for literally the opening day for the Diamondbacks. And I'm watching it on the TV there. Not too far from where the stadium was, but that was a wild experience. What has to happen for the program to get where it wants to be?
That's a great question, PK. And I think, it starts first and foremost with getting Utah's, just getting the program, the support around it in terms of fans showing up. That's part of the big picture here. But Utah, with the NIL situation being what it is, it's not great. Especially in the Big 12 compared to the Big 12,
which has so much emphasis on basketball.
Oh man,
yeah, right.
It's with Utah having an NIL budget of about $2.5 million, there's Kansas State player getting $2 million alone.
Yeah.
There's a number of programs that have these NIL budgets that are just so much larger, and so for Utah, that would be a big way of closing the gap and helping the program get to where it needs to be. But there's a lot that has to happen with this program. I think, Craig Smith, he's a great players coach. He gets the players to play hard. They seem still bought in to playing hard for him. But there's a lot of things missing on the floor. There's a lot of detail, a lot of just unorganization on the floor. And I think a lot of things have to be cleaned up to improve the product on the floor this season.
How about in the pipeline? Anybody coming? Anybody committed that can give some hope?
They've got the Jackson Johnson kid who's currently serving a mission. He was a 4-star prospect out of Alta.
I remember the name.
6'8", 6'9" type kid. Similar to Jake Wallin in terms of that versatile forward that can, handle the ball, can shoot, can get to the rim, that sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
Craig likes those sort of players, and so we'll see what happens with him, but he's going to get back from his mission. They have another kid, Alvin Jackson, who's the younger brother of Frank Jackson, the great from Lone Peak.
Yeah.
They've got him committed. He's currently playing out at Salt Lake Community College. And then, with Craig, what we've seen is sort of a shift to more of the transfer portal and making that the point of emphasis.
Sure.
And I think, too, when you have a limited budget, you need to be wise about how you spend it. And I think using what you have available to you in the transfer portal is the best way to maximize those returns.
And that's to come as the spring season for basketball really heats up with the transfer portal. We've still got about, another 4 or 5 weeks, and then we'll go into March Madness there. And then once we get into April, things will be able to click. Well, Steve, it's been an enjoyable time. We appreciate you coming in and updating us on the Utes. Bounce back season for football. Yes, I'm on board with that. I think that last year was a little bit of a fluke. And, to what extent? Are we looking at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? That remains to be seen. But to me, if I'm looking at it right now, and I usually am conservative with my picks, I'm highly liberal in my life, just off the charts there. But when it comes to, what are you laughing at?
I know. I've seen you in the gym. I've seen you work out in the real world.
Yeah.
So liberal.
I know it's liberal. Yeah, I know you're out there.
Right. So with that in mind, I'm going 8.
8? I'm right there.
But I'm
with
a conservative guy.
Yeah.
When it comes to projections.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I've got 8 and 4. Just looking at the schedule, I could see 9 and 3. I can even see 10 and 2 with the way that the schedule sets up. But Utah has to have everything come together.
And what a crazy league. So who knows what's going to happen?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Arizona State, you lived that last year.
Yeah.
Pick 16th, they finished at the top.
Crazy.
This league is so, and the difference is a handful of plays.
Oh, you look at the Sun Devils; they won 6 one-score games.
Exactly,
yeah.
right.
You're
and
gonna do that every time? Probably not.
For Utah, it feels like you're 5 and 7. It feels like you have a mountain to climb, but really, it's just a handful of plays that make a difference.
Look at BYU the year before; they were 5 and 7, and they're rolling out 11 wins the next season. So, for you Ute fans out there, I don't think it's a big stretch to have a lot of success. But thanks for coming in. We appreciate it. And we'll follow your coverage at KSLSports.com every single day. Those guys are kicking butt. Appreciate you coming in, Steve.
Appreciate you, PK.
Okay, now somebody I appreciate, and more importantly, you should appreciate if you haven't done anything, and even if you want to up your game if you've done something for Valentine's. John Brooks, I call him JB from J. Brooks Jewelers. He's here to help you out. Listen, take a knee right now, gather around the radio, and listen.
I love it. Very, very nice intro. Thank you very much, PK. I appreciate it. We are definitely here to fix your problems for tomorrow. And the problem tomorrow is you have a big holiday, and our solution is that we have what your wife wants or your sweetheart wants, which is a beautiful piece of jewelry. And whatever that budget might be, I promise Jay Brooks is going to have something that's beautifully and well done in that budget. We usually have some really fun things starting around $100, and we go anywhere that your imagination can take you. And as I was talking about earlier, the ladies, they just love what we do. And when they come in, you just see it. They become so animated and so excited. And to think that you want to buy them something that's just for them and that one day they hold and wear and keep, they can give to their daughter or their daughter-in-law or their granddaughter. And we're seeing that in our family right now. My wife is starting to hand out a few things, and it's stuff that she has collected over the years, and the girls are so excited to wear it because it was mom's.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot. And so I just think that we solve a problem for you and at the same time make you look good. And we have a lot of fun doing it. Our staff is all female. Each stylist has a unique style of her own. We'll match you up with someone that fits you well and will also, more importantly, fit your sweetheart well. So when you come, we have the right things for you, and I think you'll be pleased. So come see us. Check us out online, jbrooksjewelers.com. We're just in Murray, right across from the mall, and in Murray, and then also down in Lehigh, just east of the outlet malls. And I think you'll be very pleased. We'll make you look good. We'll load you up with chocolate and free flowers with every purchase, and you'll be the hero, and she'll be delighted.
Okay, Yak, is his mic on? Because we're going to end it. We're going to bring it in the way we do in sports. On 3, J. Brooks Jewelers. You got it? And you're in, JB, you're in on it too. 1, 2, 3, J. Brooks Jewelers.
I love it.